So before we get started, a couple of things. Someone left their ID out front at the check-in. So if Jessica Zimmerman is here, I have your ID, or it's right up here. Okay, if you want to come and grab it. Welcome. So before we get started this evening, we have a quorum already. We have 245 people. As everybody knows, a quorum is 100. But before we get started this evening, we're going to listen to a couple of brief updates from our elected officials. So we'll start first with, I thought I saw him, Senator Bill Driscoll. There you are. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for the opportunity to speak tonight at the town meeting. Good evening to all of you. And Congressman Lynch, good to see you as always. And our town council, the new town administrator. And of course our clerk. And all the staff and volunteers that support these meetings in the town every year. Thank you for all of your work and support. And of course our service to our democracy. This, as many of you know, and historians in the room will know that town meeting predates really the start of the country, and it's great to be a part of that legacy here tonight. I'd like to begin with a couple updates from Beacon Hill, some things that we have done, some things that we're working on. It's budget week in the Senate. It's an honor to serve you in the Senate up on Beacon Hill, just over a year in that role. I think I missed the town meeting last year because of budget or a late session, so my first time before you. I appreciate the opportunity. I'll begin with school funding, because I know it's, in terms of what we hear from constituents and community members most frequently, in addition to some of the officials up here, the need for us to revisit and look at the school funding formulas. In 2019, I was a member of the House of Reps in Massachusetts, so I served there for 8 years before becoming a senator. And we passed the Student Opportunity Act, and that was what was seen as a generational investment pre-pandemic, but we all know the story since the pandemic in recent years. Inflation and rising fixed costs have hindered some of the original intentions of that multi-billion-dollar investment of SOA. We're in our final year of that 5-year implementation, and we're implementing it fully this year. In the budget this time last year, we passed a provision that is underway. We're expecting a report, so there was a listening tour done around the state. I think there were 10 or so listening sessions. I attended one of them and testified, and I listened to another. And it was in regards to a working group that was set up to look at the school funding formulas for the state. I can pretty confidently say that I don't think there was one positive piece of testimony during those 10 sessions. No one stood up and said it's working great. It's quite the opposite. In my testimony to that group, I advocated that they take a big swing, that they send the legislature a report in June that helps to address how we might change the funding formulas going forward. And as a result, I've co-sponsored a number of different bills regarding Chapter 70, which is our education chapter, and inflation adjustments to try and bring up the minimum aid number for Easton and other communities, in addition to transportation funding, special education funding, things of that nature. I do have a website if you really want to dive into it. It's BillDriscollJr.com, so it's my name, BillDriscollJr.com. And we provide updates as we're passing things in the Senate or the governor signs them into law. This year in the budget, so we started the budget debate today in the Senate, and in addition to the school funding, so we've set the minimum per pupil aid at I believe at $160 per student per day, which is an increase over last year and well above what the governor proposed in her budget initially. So we're matching what the House did. In the Senate, we also, a thing that we've heard a lot about is unrestricted government aid coming back to cities and towns like Easton. So the Senate proposed a $53 million increase over last year in unrestricted aid. And also, there's a provision in there to have another working group to, again, look at this similarly what we're doing with education, look at the funding formula going forward for what's referred to as UGA, unrestricted general government aid. So Easton right now, we're proposing a 7.4% increase, or about $2.9 million, almost $3 million over last year, so that the folks here involved in the town can make decisions on how exactly to spend that money. We did also some directed spending in the budget last year, and I have some things filed this year for this week for debate. You, of course, had a great tricentennial celebration since this time last year. We, working with my colleagues, Rep. Field and Rep. Plouffe, as part of your state delegation, we secured $35,000 for the Easton Tricentennial, and as part of the fair share amendments, this was the ballot question a couple of years ago. The millionaire's tax is often referred to as a surtax on incomes over $1 million. We allocated $20,000 for capital improvements to the public schools, $20,000 for transportation infrastructure projects, and in '25, the first year that we had the fair share funding available, we secured $75,000 for transportation improvements locally. This year, right now, this week, as part of the budget, working with Reps Field and Plouffe to secure funds for a couple of nonprofits, Raising Multicultural Kids, Easton Wings of Hope, and we hope to secure funding for Swift Park and some renovations and improvements to go there. If you ever need to get in contact with myself and my staff, our phone number is 617-722-1643, and again, the website is bildriscolljr.com. There's a way to contact us or to follow along for other updates as they come available. So thank you so much, Madam Moderator, for the time here tonight. I wish you all good luck in your deliberations here. I want to say just in closing that it's been my policy since I was a state rep and now a state senator for almost all in the legislature for 10 years, that anything that you pass here as a home rule petition, anything that the select board, the town administrator send forward, I will push forward whether it's in front of me in a committee or on the Senate floor for a vote. I respect the work of town meeting and will make sure that I do my best to push those home rule petitions forward as they come to me. So thank you so much for your time tonight, and good luck with the rest of the town meeting. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Moderator. Thank you for the courtesy of allowing me just to mention a couple things. Usually I'm in Washington on Monday nights, but we're in recess until this Wednesday. We're back in session. I know you've got a lot of items on the warrant, so I'll be brief. There are a couple of things, though, that I wanted to congratulate the previous town manager, Connor Reed. He worked very close with us, as did the Board of Selectmen as well, on a partnership between the federal government, our state officials, including Senator Driscoll and Representative Fields and state delegation. The good news is that at the end of the day, we were able to bring back $7.9 million to the town of Easton in the recent round of federal funding that we were trying to seek for various projects. I'm happy to report, I'm sorry, $6.9 million. You just lost $1 million. Most of that was through the American Rescue Plan Act. That success is impressive given the size of the town of Easton, but also when you think about the fact that this was a competitive process, so you had to compete with other states and jurisdictions for this federal money, and it was awarded based on two main criteria. One was impact. How many people were affected by each federal dollar that was given to that particular town, and how efficient that money was used in terms of the project had to be under budget and on time. The two projects that were the main components of the funding that the town of Easton received one was the PFAS filtration system that was installed here, and that scored very high based on the efficiency and cost. within budget and when considering the overall benefit generated by that project. And the second project that we worked upon was the new consolidated police, fire, and DPW facility that was recently completed. Those projects really, I think, help the credibility, our credibility collectively, in getting more federal money for the town of Easton when necessary. So I want to give great credit to the local delegation. Much of the information that we provided was at the behest of the town delegation as well as our state delegation, but I think it puts us in good stead going forward. I just want to say what an honor it is for me to represent the town of Easton in the United States Congress. We recently had a bunch of the school kids from Easton down to Washington. We had a nice visit. They're a great reflection, I think, of the families here. I think the town of Easton has won the Congressional Art Program 24 years straight that I've been in the United States Congress. So I don't know who's doing the art program at Oliver Ames, but they seem to be winning every single year. I feel bad for it. And also, I want to note that for the other projects that were put forward, and these were lesser amounts, but in the $200,000 range from the federal government, almost all of that funding went towards veteran services. And I think that says a lot about the town of Easton. You know, you take care of your kids, you take care of your seniors, and you take care of your veterans. And I don't think anything better could be said about any town in America today. So God bless you all. It's an honor to be here, and very grateful for your participation in town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Easton's annual town meeting. I'm your town moderator, Kate Welch. Seated up here on the stage with me is town council to my immediate right, Jay Tallerman. He has an associate with him tonight, Karen Fisher, and at the end is Danielle Sicard, our town clerk. As you're seated and waiting for the meeting to begin, I just want to go over some few basic guidelines with everybody. First and foremost, and probably one of the most important ones, is the April 28th election results have been tabulated and both override questions have failed. Therefore, no additional amounts from the override questions will be added to the fiscal 2027 budget that's been presented. So successful overrides involve two phases: a ballot question to improve increased funding beyond the Proposition 2.5 levy limits, and town meeting appropriation of the funding over the levy limit. Due to the failure of both override questions on the ballot, the annual town election on April 28th, the 2026 annual town meeting warrant will not include any additional funding above what is allowed within our levy limit. The 2026 annual town meeting on May 18th includes one balanced budget, fiscal year 2027 budget, with no additional amounts over the levy limit. There will not be a second override contingent budget as there was last year in the 2025 annual town meeting. As everyone knows, we require a forum of 100 people. I've already indicated that we are way over the 100, and so we can move on. First and foremost, I want to welcome Liz Dennehy as our new town administrator, seated right down here in front. Liz has been in her new role now as town administrator for 3 weeks today. She's been working diligently to make a smooth transition into her role. Please join me in welcoming her as our new town administrator. Seated on the floor in front of me next to Liz Dennehy are members of the Select Board. The board members will be moving the articles and making recommendations on the articles. You may have noticed that there are 4 citizens' petitions at the end of the warrant. The citizens who have made those petitions will be responsible for moving those articles. The Select Board will move to take no action on any of these who lack a motion from the floor. Seated also on the floor to my left are members of the Finance Committee. They'll also be making recommendations on the articles. Also in the audience Down in the front, our school committee members, department heads, and other committee members who are here to answer questions that anyone has and to help us make good decisions for our town. If you're a registered voter, please make sure that you checked in at the entrance of the auditorium and that you got your little orange card. The cards become very important as we use them to vote this evening for or against articles before you. If you're not a registered voter, you're still welcome to stay for the town meeting. However, you can't vote. There's a designated seating section in the first 6 rows to my right, down in the first part of the auditorium here. So the rules regarding the meeting itself, please remember that our town meeting is governed by town meeting time, and we follow the rules of parliamentary procedure as well as bylaws and our town charter. There's a glossary of terms provided in the back of the warrant if you want to review those terms. This meeting is being recorded by ECAT for people to view at home, so it can be viewed in the future. Also, more importantly, our town clerk, Danielle Sicard, is making an official record of the meeting. She'll be recording names and addresses of the speakers who make any motions or want to make any statements or have anything to say on any given article, and the votes on the motions and each article, among other things. Therefore, it's important for everybody to follow procedure. As voting citizens, you do not have the right to speak after, you do have the right to speak after the article has been presented in its entirety. If you'd like to speak, I'll give you the opportunity to do so. However, there are some simple rules regarding speaking. Please gather your thoughts prior to making your way to the microphone, and there are 2 right in the middle. You'll only be allowed to speak once on any given article. When you approach the microphone, please speak clearly and state your name and address so that the town clerk, Ms. Sicard, can make an accurate record. Once you're recognized, you'll be able to speak only once. Please keep your comments or concern to the article or articles we are covering. I'm not going to allow any comments or concerns outside the scope of the article. There's no set time limit on speaking. However, if the discussion or comments are non-productive, repetitive, not on topic, or out of line, I'll exercise my right as moderator to stop the speaker from continuing. Remember, you must be recognized before you speak. All speakers will be treated by courtesy by me and by everybody else in the room. No speaker will be allowed to use the meeting for personal attacks on any individual. All remarks will be directed towards the moderator. If you wish to make any amendment to any motion, you must do so in writing and present it to the moderator. We have amendment forms up here if that becomes necessary. Again, the reason we do this is so the record is clear and the amendment is stated properly. The citizens' petitions in Articles 16 through 19 must provide their own motions in writing. If the motion is not in writing, there'll be a motion made by the select board to take no action. Voting is done by a show of hands with that orange card. So when I ask if you vote yes for something, for an article passing, you'll raise it if you want to vote yes. And same thing, if you don't want it to pass, if you want to vote no, you'll raise that orange card. I will recognize motions to move the question, but if in my opinion there are still people waiting to speak or to add to the discussion, I'll exercise my authority not to accept a motion at the time. The clerk's confirmed that the return of the warrant is in order and we have a quorum. So if everybody wants to rise, we could recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today is Monday, May 18th, 2026, and it is now 7:24 in the evening. The annual town meeting for the Town of Easton is now called to order. Article 1.
I move that the town vote to accept the reports of the Select Board, Town Administrator, Assessors, Board of Health, Town Clerk, Treasurer, Collector of Taxes, School Committee, Town Accountant, Director of Public Works, and other departments, boards, and committees of the town.
Second.
By way of explanation, this is an annual vote to accept the town report. The annual town report is available online at www.easton.ma.us/town report. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, concerns relative to Article 1? Okay, seeing none, Article 1 needs a simple majority to pass. All of those in favor of Article 1 passing, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 1 passes by a majority. Article 2.
I move that the town vote to amend Chapter 26-6 Departmental Revolving Funds, Section E, authorize revolving funds of Chapter 26 Financial Affairs Bylaw of the Town of Easton General Bylaws by adding additional revolving funds to the table as printed in the warrant, and also that the town vote to authorize the total expenditures pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026, to be expended in accordance with said bylaws pertaining to the revolving funds as printed in the warrant.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article sets the annual spending limits for all revolving funds established pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2. Actual expenditures cannot exceed the balance in the fund, even if the expenditures are less than the established limits. The Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 2? Okay, seeing none, Article 2 requires a simple majority vote in order to pass. All of those in favor of Article 2 passing, please raise your orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 2 passes by a majority. Article 3.
I move that the town vote to fix the salary and compensation of all elected officers of the town as provided by Section 108 of Chapter 41 of General Laws as printed in the warrant.
Second.
The explanation is this is an annual article required by statute to set the salary levels for all compensated elected officials. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 3? If you have a question, you have to get up and make your way to the microphone. Right behind you. There you go.
Is this per year?
I
per
just
month?
need a name and address first.
My name is Dennis Foley. I live at 12 Cobblestone Road, North Easton.
Yes, it's an annual salary,
Okay.
unless you want to give us a raise.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 3? Okay. Seeing none, Article 3 requires a simple majority vote to pass. All those in favor of Article 3 passing, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed. And Article 3 passes by simple majority. Article 4.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $37,184.42 from sewer surplus to pay the costs of bills for engineering services for Weston and Sampson incurred in a prior fiscal year.
Second.
This article allows for the payment of prior year bills discovered after the close of the fiscal year and requires a 4/5 majority vote. There are 2 prior year bills for the Sewer Enterprise Fund from Weston and Sampson totaling $37,184.42. The Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 4? Okay. Seeing none, Article 4 requires a 4/5 majority vote in order to pass. All of those in favor, please raise your orange card. And all of those opposed. And Article 4 passes by a 4/5 majority. Article 5.
I move that the town vote to supplement the following fiscal year 2026 budgets. DPW Administration, $486,133. Solid Waste and Recycling Enterprise, $620,000. Sewer Enterprise, $39,593. And that to meet this appropriation, $486,133 shall be transferred from free cash. $620,000 shall be transferred from solid waste and recycling surplus, and $39,593 shall be transferred from sewer surplus.
Second.
By way of explanation, the DPW snow and ice budget requires $486,133 due to the severity and frequency of this winter's storm events. The Solid Waste and Recycling Enterprise Fund requires $620,000 to meet its revenue and expense targets, and the Sewer Enterprise Fund requires $39,593 for additional debt service. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 5? Okay,
Barbara Peterson, 910 Washington Street, Southeastern. I want to know how come you could pay a bill out of the surplus from the sewer enterprise, and now you have to charge more for the sewer enterprise?
What do you want to have?
Good evening. The $39,000 from the Sewer Enterprise Fund, that's just debt service. We would have incorporated that into the budget at the beginning of the year, but because we had already set the tax rate, the only place that you can take that appropriation from, in this case, would be from sewer surplus.
Okay, but you're saying that you need to have more money in this Article 5.
Right.
If you have surplus, why do you need more money?
The only way you can spend the surplus is to appropriate it at a town meeting.
Then what do you charge it for?
So it's kind of like free cash for the general fund. It's just the amount that you had left over from your operations from the previous fiscal year, but the only way you can spend that extra money is to vote it at a town meeting.
So if you charge me, make up numbers, $100, and you only spend $95, you can't spend that $5 on anything else next year?
Only if you appropriate it. You have to vote it at town meeting.
Would you have to give it back to us?
No, I mean, it's gonna close to surplus.
Steve Drown, 101 Mill Street. Could you elaborate a little bit further on the $620,000 required for the solid waste and recycling? There isn't much detail supplied.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, as you may know, the solid waste and recycling program is ending at the end of this fiscal year. This budget supplement is comprised of two components, a $250,000 amount and a $370,000 amount. The $250,000 is needed to cover projected expenses that are expected to exceed the current budget. And then the remaining $370,000, it's primarily related to a timing of revenue collections. So in June of 2025, the town received about $198,000 of advance collections for the fiscal 26 year, and that amount closed to the surplus at the end of the fiscal year. So it wasn't collected this year, it was collected last year. And then also, there's another $170,000 in unpaid fees that we estimate we're not going to collect this year, but we'll probably collect it next year. So it really becomes more of just like a timing difference in the collection of the revenues. So that's why it's those two amounts added together.
Thank you.
Carol Cleary, 98 Bay. Isn't the $620,000, isn't that covered by the payments by the people that are receiving the collection?
It is, and that's what the funding source for that appropriation is. It's the surplus in the solid waste and recycling enterprise budget.
Well, technically, you're saying that when people are making another payment, Is that going to be $620,000 in surplus in next year's?
No. So there's already a surplus in that fund of about $763,769. So, and that's money that has already been collected and was certified as of July 1st, 2025. We're going to use that funding source to cover this shortfall, which is a combination of $250,000 for additional expenses. But then in order to meet the revenue target this year, our collections are going to be lower because we collected a lot of money last year, and we're also going to be collecting money next year because not everybody's going to pay their bill on time. So we'll collect that other money through the lien process next year. But in order to meet our targets for this year, we still have to cover what we spend this fiscal year, and that's why we need the extra $370,000.
If you have a rubbish collection service and the people are paying for that service, why is there any money due by the town? Are you telling me that when we pay $400 for the year, that there's still cost the town has to chip in more?
Yes, well, yes. But it's coming from that surplus that we received that we calculated from the previous year's operations. So it is fully funded from the user fees.
Then why is the $620,000 that you're wanting to ask and pay for? I feel like we're going around in circles here.
Yeah. So the budget is $2.1 million, but expenses are going to be more like $2.4 million this year because expenses have increased during the year. Enrollment in the program increased, and so as a result, we're going to need to spend more this year than what we budgeted. So we need to add $250,000 to the expense side of the budget. But we're not going to collect $2.4 million this year. We're going to collect less than that. And so we have to make up for that shortfall by adding $370,000 to this request.
If the people in the town are paying for their weekly service, what is it that's creating expenses for the town?
So the way it works is, we set a rate that the customers are billed for, but then we go and pay expenses to the contractor. We pay expenses for the collection, we pay expenses for the disposal. Those expenses are more than what we're actually charging people for, which is why we were at a crossroads with the program. We were going to either need to increase the fees to cover those rising costs, or we're going to need to just end the program. And because we were at a point where we were cutting staff, there was a lot of strain on DPW resources because DPW takes care of all the calls, the barrel collections, fixing barrels. So because of all that, we ended up, deciding to not to discontinue the program.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the $400 that you pay for the year is not covering the complete cost of the disposals. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. But there was adequate money that we collected in previous years to cover this shortfall this year. So it's not going to come out of the general fund. It will come from user fees, but user fees that we've collected in the past and accumulated.
Thank you.
James Hopgood, 261 Depot Street. First, I just want to give an attaboy to all the DPW guys that kept our streets probably the best of the area. They did a great job this year. And then, like with the solid waste and the recycle, that's the trash pickup, right?
Right.
Okay, when I had the town program, it cost me more than what I'm paying now since I went off the town program. So where did the extra money go? I mean, whose pocket is getting filled with this money? Somebody's getting it. Because we hear about surplus, surplus, surplus. All right, well, why don't you just give it back to us as a lower rate? And that's all I have.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 5?
Dennis Fuller, 12 Cobblestone Road. I thought the trash program was ending, and
It
you're
is-
talking about getting fees for next year. It's ending, there'll be no fees.
There would be fees, so not everybody pays their bill. So at the end of the year, with anything, water, sewer, you have people that you bill for this fiscal year, not everybody's going to pay. And so there will be payments that we collect next year from billings from this year through the lien process.
I know, I think you've confused all of us pretty well. None of us are accountants.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 5? Okay, seeing none, Article 5 requires a simple majority to vote in order to pass. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise those orange cards. And Article 5 passes by a simple majority. Article 6.
Bear with me for a second here. I move the town vote to appropriate the sum of $114,731,841, of which $105,769 shall be raised from taxation, $150,000 shall be transferred from the opioid settlement revolving fund, $327,084 shall be transferred from septic betterment receipts reserved for appropriation, $24,119 shall be transferred from the sale of real estate receipts reserved for appropriation. $6,041,669 shall be transferred from water enterprise receipts. $800,000 shall be transferred from water surplus. $836,386 shall be transferred from sewer enterprise receipts. $458,163 shall be transferred from sewer betterments receipts reserved for appropriation. $293,651 shall be transferred from district improvement financing funds. $100,000 shall be transferred from solid waste and recycling surplus, and $700,000 shall be transferred from cable franchise and related revenue enterprise receipts, all to meet the town charges, including the salaries of several elected and appointed officers of the town, including cost items for collective bargaining agreements for fiscal year 2027, as printed in the warrant under Article 6.
Second.
This is the annual operating budget for the town. The town administrator will make a presentation at town meeting regarding this proposal. All budget documents and details are available at www.easton.ma.us/budget. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Before we proceed any further, Select Board Member Barger, I think, would you take a friendly amendment on the reading of that first number? I believe you meant, let's see if I can say it, $105,769. I think you said $150,000.
Yeah, I thought I said 105,000, but okay.
You said 100, right.
$105,769 shall be raised from taxation.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Liz Dennehy, Easton's new town administrator. I'm also a resident and taxpayer here in town, and I'm pleased to present the fiscal year 2027 budget to you this evening. To recap this year's budget process, in the wake of the failed override attempt in June 2025, the Budget Subcommittee began working on the fiscal 27 budget last summer, which is earlier than typical. They held 3 public budget forums this past fall and conducted a survey initiative regarding the budget and the possibility of proposing another override based on feedback received. This initiative solicited over 1,100 responses. Based on the expertise of the Budget Subcommittee and this valuable community feedback, a smaller and more focused menu-style override was proposed, with 2 questions pertaining to public safety and public works, respectively. Despite taking the approach recommended by the community, both override questions failed at the ballot last month. As a result, none of that proposed funding is included in this budget. This is a timeline of the budget preparation process, the culmination of which is the final proposed fiscal 27 budget for consideration this evening. The proposed budget is balanced and uses no one-time funds such as free cash or stabilization. What does this budget aim to do? Maintain structural balance by supporting the delivery of essential services without using one-time resources for recurring budgetary expenditures, and this ensures we're matching ongoing operating costs with current recurring revenue sources wherever possible. To touch upon revenue, this slide gives an overview comparison of fiscal year 26 versus the proposed fiscal year 27 budget in terms of revenue. Overall, the budget reflects modest growth in recurring revenues, with the largest share continuing to come from property taxes, which remain the town's primary and most stable revenue source. State aid growth is a little better than it has been in recent years. Local receipts are lower due to the elimination of ambulance revenue. Other revenues include one-time sources such as free cash and stabilization funds, and also include recurring transfers from other funds such as receipts reserved for appropriation. This category is down significantly as no use of free cash or stabilization funds are proposed in this budget. Enterprise funds are also down with the discontinuation of the town's trash program. Unappropriated fixed costs consist of state and county assessments and the allowance for tax abatements and exemptions that are part of the budget, but not subject to town meeting appropriation. They are deducted from total revenue in the slide to illustrate how the town meeting total of $114,731,841 is arrived at. This slide continues the revenue picture, focusing specifically on state aid. Overall, total state aid is increasing by about $736, or just under 5% from last year. Chapter 70 education aid and unrestricted general government aid, or UGA, are the 2 primary sources of state funding that support cities and towns in delivering essential local services. However, as inflation and unfunded mandates continue to drive expenses higher, state aid increases have failed to keep pace with the true cost of providing these services. This growing gap between revenues and expenditures has created significant financial pressure for Easton and municipalities across the Commonwealth, and is the primary factor contributing to our fiscal challenges. You'll also notice a significant percentage increase in charter tuition reimbursement funding, approximately $207,000. However, this increase is completely offset by higher charter school assessments and therefore does not create additional budgetary capacity. Chapter 70 education aid, the largest component of state aid, is up about $493,000, or 4.3%, which is a solid but not extraordinary increase. We appreciate the House and Senate's current budget proposal of $160 per pupil minimum aid, but also recognize that Easton has experienced many years without meaningful growth in Chapter 70 funding. In fact, over the last 20 years, Easton's compounded annual growth rate in Chapter 70 aid has been below 2%. Had state aid growth simply kept pace at a modest average of 3% over that same time period, Easton would be receiving approximately $2.2 million more in Chapter 70 funding today. That additional revenue would have significantly strengthened the town's ability to support educational services while reducing the financial pressures currently facing the community. Unrestricted general government aid, or UGA, is essentially flat, growing by less than 1%. UGA revenues have similarly failed to keep pace with the rising cost of municipal services. Prior to fiscal 2026, Easton's UGA funding peaked in fiscal 2008 at approximately $2.7 million. However, significant reductions in fiscal years 2010 and 2011 resulted in a cumulative 32% cut, and it took until fiscal 2026 for funding levels to fully recover. Had UGA funding simply grown at an annual rate of 3%, Easton would be receiving approximately $2 million more in recurring revenue today. Taken together, the stagnation in both Chapter 70 and UGA funding reflects a long-term structural imbalance between state aid growth and the actual cost of delivering municipal and educational services, leaving Easton and many communities like it facing sustained fiscal pressures. Local receipts remain an important component of the town's revenue structure. These receipts include sources such as motor vehicle excise tax, permitting and licensing fees, and meals tax collections. In this year's comparison, local receipts appear lower, primarily because $1.7 million in ambulance revenue was removed following the privatization of ambulance services. And while local receipts provide meaningful support for municipal operations, they represent only a relatively small share of the town's overall revenue base. Even in years of strong growth, they are not sufficient on their own to resolve the broader financial challenges facing the town. This slide summarizes the enterprise fund revenue that is part of the town budget. Enterprise funds are separate accounts used to manage services funded through user fees rather than general taxation. They are designed to operate more like a self-supporting businesses where the revenues generated by the service are intended to cover the cost of operations. Enterprise revenues reflect an overall decrease due to the discontinuation of the town's trash program. Now looking at expenses, here we have an overview comparison of fiscal year 26 versus the proposed fiscal year 27 budget in the way of expenses. To explain some of these categories further, fixed costs generally encompass insurance premiums, debt service, and other non-discretionary expenditures and excluded debt, to name a few items. Debt service is increasing as the municipal facilities project progresses. Employee benefits and insurance increased by 5.36%, which is actually much more favorable than the preliminary projection of 8.19%. And education assessments are down by 8.25% due to a decrease in enrollment. As previously mentioned when discussing revenue, enterprise funds expenses are decreasing by 9.28%, mainly as a result of discontinuing the town's solid waste and recycling program. The fiscal year 27 budget is balanced with both revenues and expenditures totaling $114,731,841. The proposed budget is built around structural balance, maintaining essential services while limiting further reductions where possible and avoiding reliance on one-time reserves to support ongoing operations. To give everyone a visual, town departmental budgets decreased overall by 3.2%, and the Easton Public Schools budget decreased by 2.8%. Again, no free cash or stabilization funds are being used in the fiscal 27 budget for the first time in many years. How is the town able to do this? A bare-bones fiscal 27 budget that carries forward the significant cuts made in fiscal year 2026. Fortunately, health and property insurance figures were lower than originally anticipated, as well as education assessments. Also, a budget realignment from the school district allowed for a fiscal 27 request on their end that was 2.8% lower than fiscal year 2026. On that note, I'd now like to call upon officials from the Easton Public Schools to provide information on the school district's portion of the fiscal 27 budget.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Alicia Cabral, Superintendent of Schools.
Hi, I'm Joe Spagna, Director of Finance for Easton Public Schools. Thank you for the opportunity to present this budget to you. I'm hoping we've been presenting the details of this budget for several months now, several times. I'm hoping the summarization of what I have tonight will answer some of the questions you may have. I thought it was important to include a slide for net school spending to talk about what that is. Net school spending is the requirement that the state, DESE, puts in place that indicates what the minimum required adequate amount of money you should be providing to your students to provide their education. It mainly comes from general fund spending and from both state and local revenue taxes. A district that does not meet the 100% of net school spending or failure to meet that could result in non-approval of the municipality's tax rate, enforcement action by the Attorney General, or loss of state aid. There are items that are typically not included in the net school spending calculation. Mainly those are spending from federal state grants as well as revolving funds like the school lunch fund or athletic revolving funds and capital costs. So when we take a look at our budget, which is just under $50,100,000, the net school spending requirement for FY27 right now is just under $49,900,000. I think it's important to show that because what we did to reduce the budget really does close a gap. We don't have much leeway there. It's a very narrow margin. One thing I will say though, the net school spending also does include the medical expense that's paid on behalf of the school district's employees by the town. So that is not included in this figure. But I thought it was important to show that we have a very narrow margin of just over $227,000, excluding that payment by the town to our benefit. Just to let you see that we've brought this budget down really to where it needs to be at this point moving forward. So our proposed budget, as the administrator said, it is a reduction of 2.8%, $1,442,438 reduction. Most of this comes from some of the one-time expenses that were in the FY26 budget. Fringe benefits included retirement incentives and unemployment. That's just under $680,000 reduction. Contracted medical services and transportation saw a reduction of just under $600,000. Supplies and materials, the $181,000 that you see is mainly from textbooks purchases that were budgeted last year, purchased, and the principals felt that they were adequate textbooks to get us through FY27. The level funded salaries of $40,504,000, that was the original amount budgeted in FY26. Because of that overstatement in budget that year, that allowed us to incorporate the step and lane movements for our salaries and benefits, plus a modest increase anticipating negotiations to level fund that budget as opposed to ask for an increase due to those step and lane movements. Thank you. So what changed? Basically, as was stated before, it's a realignment of the FY27 budget. As you know, in FY26, there were unprecedented layoffs and staff movements. Because of that, when I got on board, I was directed to do a comprehensive review and reconstruction of the personnel supplement and salary allocation process that was conducted. So in doing that, we identified several positions and costs that remained budgeted after those staff changes and reductions happened. So in order to get FY27 to a good starting point, a solid point, we realigned our appropriations to actual staffing and operational needs. So the reduction, as you know, is 2.8%. It's important to note that we are maintaining our core educational needs for our kids in this budget. There are no anticipated staff reductions due to our current alignment right now with the budget. I'd like to kind of make a statement here that it's not newly discovered extra money. And I know that that's been going around. You found the money. It's a correction and a realignment of a budget, misalignment of a budget that happened. So our FY27 budget isn't reflective of us having extra cash on hand that we can just say we don't need as much from the town. It's realigning it to what our actual staffing and operational needs are. I'd like to hit upon some of the year-end purchasing that's happening. I know there's some talk out there about what we're spending the money on and why we're spending this money. You need to understand that in any solid budget for a school district, there's always going to be some year-end expenditures that take place. If it's a properly maintained budget, you're going to end up with a little bit of surplus or some surplus there that you can use to prepare for the next fiscal year. The available funding for these expenditures that we're doing are primarily reflect the one-time savings and timing adjustments that we have. For example, unfilled positions. Several positions went unfilled for the year, so there's some savings there. So they were offset by some contractual obligations that we brought in to meet the need of the students by an outsourced party to make sure the students got what they needed, but several did go unfilled. Removal of one-time retirement incentives, elevated employment, or other areas where we saw some savings. It's important to note, too, that these one-time sources cannot support ongoing annual expenses or permit for staffing increases. The FY27 budget does not have those recurring increased costs built into it. We are very streamlined for FY27. We are using $500,000 to prepay our out-of-district tuitions, which is allowable by the state. That's helping us to bring the budget down for FY27, so that is already built into the budget for 27. There's also $1.3 million offset through special education revolving funds and circuit breaker funding. It's important to note that while FY27 is financially stable for us and it's a good baseline budget going forward, it's based on actual need, it does not relieve the structural pressures that the town is experiencing right now. That's an ongoing issue that we'll have to work with. Thank you. Also, as you probably already know, in finding the issue with the FY26 budget, the school committee decided to go out for services of an independent audit firm to conduct an annual review of the district. We did a contract with Clifton, Lawson, and Allen. They were through the Commonwealth contract PRF 78 to do an operational review and give an independent report on that review. That request was for them to take a look at the FY26 budget to either confirm what I found or find what else I might have missed, right, in that review, what caused the FY26 issue, but also take a look at the FY27 budget preparation, what process we followed, what steps we're taking to make sure and provide comfort that it's correct this time. It also is going to take a look at our staffing reconciliation. That's my personnel supplement that we reconstructed to make sure that's in line and it makes sense and it's reasonable. And also what I feel is one of the most important things is internal controls. If we have proper internal controls that are put in place, which I've already done and we've done together as a district, you would be able to find and recognize these errors before they became material, before they became an issue for the fiscal year. So proper internal controls is key as far as I'm concerned. Their report will also give a review on that. CLA at this point has completed all interviews with district staff and administration and have received all requested supporting documentation. Matter of fact, they got quite a bit of documentation ahead of time. The firm's been granted full access, unfiltered, read-only access to our accounting system and supporting records. And in the event that they want to pull their own reports, take a look at the details and the activity that's in there, they have access to do that. Like I said, the current work is an assessment of staff and reconciliations, budget development procedures, position control processes, and internal oversight mechanisms. They are currently reviewing and analyzing this information for a preparation of the operational review report that will be presented to the school committee in June, most likely towards the end of June. Thank you. I'd like to turn it back to the administrator to finish the presentation.
This slide focuses on changes to services and what it means for residents. There have been many changes to services since the substantial cuts that were made in fiscal year 2026, which I'm sure many residents have noticed. The town privatized ambulance service and discontinued the solid waste and recycling program. Additionally, difficult decisions were made to cut and/or not fill certain key positions within the Easton Public Schools, Public Safety, Public Works, and Town Hall. All of these positions that were cut, in addition to vacancies that were left unfilled, have led to a notable change in the level and types of services provided. These significant cuts have all been carried forward into the fiscal '27 budget. It should be noted that this is not exclusively an Easton problem, but rather a statewide issue. Data shows that as of last year, more than 57 Massachusetts municipalities had attempted at least one override. It has been 20 years and counting since Easton has gone without an override. 2.5% does not keep pace with inflation, and the town has and will continue to advocate for increased state aid and funding opportunities to help close the significant funding gap that exists. Projecting outward to fiscal '28 and beyond, the financial picture is troubling as inflation is outpacing revenue and has been for many years now. Additionally, after last year's drastic cuts, we've been left with a bare bones budget and a minimally staffed team. Operating with the bare minimum in terms of staffing and resources, as well as overall financial uncertainty, diminishes the ability to provide necessary services and creates issues with recruitment and retention, given the very competitive job market that exists for public service professionals, which all comes at a cost to the town. Despite these challenges, town officials remain committed to maintaining essential services and finding new, innovative ways to increase revenue and reduce spending. More broadly, we remain committed to continuing the provision of public services that are efficient, effective, and responsive to our residents' needs. However, this continues to be increasingly difficult given our limited financial resources. Thank you.
So before we get to comments or questions on the budget, what I normally do, I've done for the past few years now, I'm going to continue to do here. I'm going to go through the operating budget as is written in Article 6, and I'm going to call out the lines. If anybody wants to comment, question, has any concern on any of those budget lines, just yell out "hold." And then we'll go back to those held lines, and you can come up and make your comments, questions, concerns on those held budget lines. Okay, make sense? Okay. Okay, so Select Board, Finance Committee, Reserve Fund, Accountant, Assessors, Town Collector/Treasurer, Town Council, Human Resources, Information Technology, Town Clerk, Planning and Community Development, Police, Public Safety Dispatch, Fire and Rescue, Inspectional Services, Regional and County School Assessments, DPW Administration, Health and Community Services, Library, Maturing Debt and Interest, Employee Benefits and Insurance, Other General Government, School Department, Sewer Department Enterprise, Water Division Enterprise, Solid Waste and Recycling Enterprise, PEG Access and Cable Related Fees Enterprise. Okay, great. So we have two holds from what I heard. Okay, so anybody have any questions, comments, and concerns about the school department budget line?
Dennis Road, 12 Cobblestone Road. So the school didn't spend as much money as they had in their budget, is that correct? They had $1.4 million left as free cash? Isn't that what we just went through from last year?
For FY26, no. That $1.4 million reduction is just a realignment of the budget to what we truly needed for FY26.
What is a realignment? How do you come up with 1.4 as a realignment? I don't understand that.
Okay, so we had a change in our business office administration. We were without a business administrator for some time.
Okay, so you had money there, you didn't pay them.
Okay, you need to let her answer the question, okay?
I'm just trying to understand the language.
So let her answer.
Sure, go ahead.
So when Mr. Spagna, Director Spagna, joined us, we had had an unprecedented number of personnel moves. So the first thing I asked him to do was to go through the personnel and do a realignment, and he found positions in there that weren't supposed to be in there. And so we immediately called town offices, and any money that was in there that we were able to identify, we gave back to the town.
And that totaled?
1.4.
Okay, that's fine with me, 1.4. So there's 1.4 money given back to the town.
Correct.
Okay. So that's money that wasn't spent that could be used for something like the override.
Like what? I'm sorry?
Well, it's more to them than you.
Oh.
The 1.4 million could have paid part of the override rather than put it through up to a vote.
This was one-time money.
I understand it's one-time money. There's one-time money from the trash collection of $600,000. I know that's not your...
I can't speak to that.
And I have one other question. I'm not sure. We stopped having our own ambulance service and we lost $1,700,000 in income. That isn't a school question. That isn't a school question. Can someone answer that to us? All that money together would have paid for the overrides without having to do it.
Justin Alexander, Fire Chief. So the $1.7 million reduction we also have 25% fewer firefighters, their benefits, the ambulance costs, and everything else. So that is more of a, not exact wash dollar for dollar, but it wasn't, there was no give back or gain money for the town to put elsewhere. We reduced the size of the department, and the ambulance revenue was the offset. So it was almost an even match.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Gary Erickson, 134 Sheridan Street. I'm interested, I've heard a number of different dollar values for how much the surplus or how much the school department over budgeted last year. I just heard that $1.4 million was given back to the town. I assume that goes to free cash. How much other money was found that wasn't needed, and on what was that spent?
There was approximately, what we're giving back to the town is actually $1.79 million for this year. When I got on board, we did our realignment, or looked at the personnel supplement. We did see that there was an overfunding of potentially $2 to $3 million in salary lines. So that money, we found out right away what it was. We need to give that back. From what I understand, the town actually used some of their free cash to support the school district last year. We needed to give that back to the town because of that oversight and budgeting issue. There were some other lines that were budgeted in FY26 that we didn't need. Unemployment costs, for one, over $300,000 in there. That was purposely done anticipating the 44 layoffs or the 44 positions that were cut, assuming people were going to need to collect unemployment. Well, they found jobs right away. That's great. There was some over budgeting and incentives that we had. The incentives didn't have to be paid out of FY26's budget, so that's another $400,000 or $500,000 that was available to spend at the end of the year. Transportation costs were slightly higher. We didn't see the McKinney-Vento requirement for transportation that we needed. Those lines are significantly lower also. That's close to $700,000 to $800,000 that we did not expend this year. So all of those items together is what's presented the ability to do the capital improvements that we're doing right now at year end, which from my understanding, it's been 3 years without capital improvements. We need to do some of this work, and also level fund the salaries for next year. Does that answer your question?
I'm just trying to wrap my head around the numbers. So the total is just shy of $1.8 million that was given back that you found?
That's correct.
No higher than $1.8 million?
What's going back to the town is $1.8 million.
My question is what the surplus that you found that you did not need to fund the budget last year. That was $1.8 million and no more.
Right now, my projection, if all happens the way it's supposed to, we'll turn back the $1.79 million, and we may have another $800,000 to give back to the town.
Okay. And the budget presented is 2.8% less. The school budget is 2.8% less than last year.
That's correct.
Okay. As a teacher in the district, as a parent of students in the district, I just want to say we're not doing enough for our students, for your children, for your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, and your neighbors. We're not doing enough. I've been in this district almost 25 years, and next year I'll have my highest class sizes that I will have in my entire career. Some class sizes in the school this year are over 30, and I'm just really afraid that things are going to slip through the cracks when we have class sizes so high. Thank you.
George Wheeler, 10 Lothrop Street. Gentleman next to me says, we're not accountants, how do we understand this? Well, I spent a few years at Bentley College, and I tell you, every time I come here, I come in with these sheets, and then we get new slides. So nobody knows what they're doing. I went to accounting school, and I know accruals and all that, but Corner Reed made, he went back 6 years before we asked for our override last year. He said, this went there, we slid this year we slid this over here, and it was disgusting. I couldn't follow it. But last year we voted no override. And then 4 months later, we're here again, and we had some bills from last year, $4 million, and it was me, 2 other people, and 4 people that were against anything, and we went for an override. 4 months later. Where's our money for the school in Central Street? It was for sale for 4 years. It's just ridiculous how you run a business like this. And sir, you said you work for the town?
I work for the school committee, school department.
Again, please?
The school department. Finance director for the school department.
The Town of Easton School Department?
Yes, that's correct.
That's a town?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Is that the department separate?
It is not.
Oh, okay. All right. You don't like working for the town, I take it. You're ashamed of it. Listen,
I am not ashamed.
You have to meet people on a level ground when you explain these numbers to them. And if you don't, it just looks like it's flim-flam. That's all that's going on. But I'd like to find out what's happening to that school, $4 million worth, I guess. It was down to $2 million the last time, and it was going to be sold. Nothing's happened. And we have some fire department and the police department going to be sold. That'll probably sit around for another 5 years after we move. So get it together, guys. These firemen, policemen are working their butts off. And all of a sudden, never mind, I won't go anymore. I'm just upset over the whole business. It's not being done right.
I'd like to make a motion. Do I read it up here and then explain it and then give you the written?
Say your name and address.
You need your
Okay,
name
yeah.
and address.
Greg Shea, 40 Union Street.
Okay, you can read it, Frank, and then bring it up to us, please.
Thanks. I move that the operating budget line item 1.300 school department be amended to $51,539,255. This increase of $1,442,438 would bring the school department budget to level funded, meaning a 0% increase from last year instead of a 2.8% decrease. My reasonings are these. First of all, that's a level funded budget. We're not talking an increase of any money. It's exactly the same amount of money the town paid for its schools last year, and that's with all the increasing costs we're dealing with. There are losses to the school this year. While there might be not a net loss in positions, there will be one less high school social studies teacher, one half less a reading specialist at the high school, which works with the most needy students. An entire 8th grade team is going to be lost next year. And 2 grade 4 teachers, just as to name a few, are going to be lost next year. Now, some of those will be offset with additions that are much needed at the elementary school, and I'm happy to hear that. But my daughter, and maybe some of your kids, are going into 8th grade next year, and for them, that offset and that net zero loss is academic. And what it's going to mean is less services for them, and less services for the other kids that are going to be in these classes, like Mr. Erickson said, with larger class sizes. In addition to that, we heard from Senator Driscoll earlier today that the Senate is currently considering a $160 minimum student aid number. I believe, and please check me if I'm wrong up there, that the current budget has a $75 minimum student aid number. Am I right about that, Dr. Cabral? The minimum aid being $75, like in the current numbers in the 50 million?
In our budget,
Yeah.
that is correct.
Yeah, so we can almost guarantee that that's going to double. So that's going to offset some of this $1.4 million I'm asking for. Worth also noting that we just heard that the $1.4 million that would just get us to a 0% level funded budget is less than what the district gave back to the town earlier this year. And then lastly, I'll say I was a former middle school English teacher, and now I'm an advocate for educators. Being at minimum net school spending is an absolute embarrassment for a town like this. That is like the state's going to have to come in and tell us how to run our schools in a town like Easton. So I just wanted to highlight that. And lastly, I hate to be a meeting extender, and I know a lot of people in here are like, we didn't vote for the override. We didn't vote for the override this year. What's this dude doing? I'm advocating for my kids, and I'm going to continue doing it. And that's just the deal, and I hope you can understand that, whether you want to pay for these increases or not. We're going to keep doing it because our kids deserve it, because you got to make sacrifices for your kids. And I'll also say, if there's anybody out there that wants to fight for our incredibly brave public safety people, I'm ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. We got to pay for these people. They do incredible work for us.
So thank you for bringing up those points, Mr. Shea. I just want to clarify a couple of things. So we are not, we don't have any reductions due to the budget this year at the school department. We have had slowly declining enrollment regularly. We are eliminating 2 4th grade sections, but that's because the students moving up to 4th grade is a smaller cohort. So we're moving a teacher to 3rd grade, which is a larger cohort, and to 5th grade, which is a larger cohort. So when you have a very lean budget, you move the students to where, you move the teachers to where the students are. The other factor is student enrollment, and we don't know until this time of year what students are going to be choosing in their schedules. And for whatever reason, shifts change, interests change, and the social studies electives at the high school were not as robustly chosen as they have been in the past. And so that's being moved. They have gone, as you heard earlier, there's more interest in art, so we're increasing art. So what we do is we move with the students. The 8th grade team, we've had a reduction of over 100 students at the middle school in the last several years, and 100 students is roughly one 8th grade team. So we are hoping to maintain our class sizes in the 20s. We are not going to have exorbitant class sizes there. It keeps them from going down to maybe 18 or 19, which would be great, but we don't have that even in our elementary schools. And so we are being as fiscally responsible with the finances that are provided from the town, and we know that there is not an appetite for an override, which means there have to be some concessions made, and one of those is making the class sizes across the district universally an average of in the 20s, which is doable. Now, with that said, of course, we agree. We are very uncomfortable with approximately $230,000 difference in net school spending. That is true. We are very close to that. And the last thing I'll note is that when our budget is voted on by the school committee with whatever figure the town administrator puts in there, it was $75 per pupil at the time, based on the governor's budget. Right now, at least as of last week, the Senate Ways and Means Committee has it at $160. If it goes to $160, the school department does not get that money because our budget has already been voted on by the school department. Those funds go to the town, which it's very sorely needed at the town. But again, we never know what that's going to be in the future or if that will be sustained over time. But I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. We do not have reductions in personnel due to budget this year. We are level service this year.
So before we move on, we need to address the motion that's now on the floor. So we had a motion made, and it has not been seconded. Second. Okay, so now we need to discuss this motion that's on the floor. So if there are any questions, comments, or concerns about this motion that's on the floor, I'll take those, and then we'll get back to the rest. We have to vote on this motion first. I see you. Don't worry.
I'd just like to propose, if the motion passes, that the school committee be inclined to Gary Erickson, 134 Sheridan Street, that the school committee be inclined to use that money to restore the 8th grade team that is being cut this year. Point of information, the current 8th grade team is, don't have an exact number, is somewhere around 285, and next year it'll be 251. So that's not a reduction of 100, like Dr. Cabral said. I believe she was quoting a school-wide reduction, not a class-wide reduction.
Okay, so in regards to the motion that's on the floor, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, so it's been...
Over here.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, didn't see you.
Dale Kerster, 21 South Street. If there's an increase to this line item into the budget, does there need to be a decrease elsewhere in order to have a balanced budget?
No.
Okay.
No.
It just has to be balanced by the time you set the tax rate. We can't require it. You can do it if you want, but you don't have to. And we can leave town meeting with an unbalanced budget. You just have to do it by the time you set the tax rate.
Do you want to explain that, Jay? Okay. We'll let town council explain it.
Jay Tallerman, Town Council. So while it is preferred that we leave town meeting with a balanced budget, it's not required as a matter of law. Truth be told, at some point, if we do increase one element of the budget, by the time we set the tax rate in the fall, we will have to find balance in some way, either through a subsequent town meeting or just by cutting positions, services, capital needs, or otherwise. We will have to balance the budget, but we don't have to do it here. That's not great practice. We should try and have a balanced budget by the time we gavel out of this tonight, but it is not absolutely required.
Point of information. It's Patty Webster from A. Davis Circle.
Okay.
In all the years that I've been to town meeting and all the years that I was on the board myself, anytime a proposal was made to supplement a budget, a means of financing that proposal were required within the motion. So whether it was from free cash, stabilization, where's the funding going to come from? You can't make a proposal to add $1.4 million to a budget without saying where that funding would come from.
It would come from the tax levy if it's not referenced. So it would be from the raise and appropriate. And then by the time we set the tax rate, we'll have to reconcile those numbers, either at a subsequent town meeting or through other budget adjustments. But it comes from the tax levy, the extra 1 point whatever was in the motion, 1.442.
So the current tax levy within Prop 2.5 has already been considered within the budget that's being proposed without use of one-time funds. So there is no additional money within our tax levy to accommodate another $1.4 million within the budget, which is why you proposed an override to increase services in other budgets. So this isn't as simple as we'll just vote it and figure it out later.
Well, I think that, again, I'm just answering a legal question, and frankly, the motion to increase us by 1.4, arguably over the tax levy, puts us in a position of having to figure it out later. Again, preferred practice would be to have the offsets here tonight, but again, it's not legal. We cannot require that the movement of the question provide that balance for us. Subsequent amendments are possible. Otherwise, we'll be back at this at some point at a special town meeting, or department heads and town management will have to figure out where the cuts are coming from.
I guess I would just make one further comment. When people consider voting for this particular amendment, that you keep that in mind, that a subsequent town meeting is going to come back and say, we're going to lay off 3 police officers, we're going to lay off 2 firefighters, we're going to cut services at Town Hall in order to accommodate this increase, because there isn't funding. We just looked at a $1 million override that got voted down. The funding isn't here.
Good evening, Denise Higgins of 4 New Pond Way. I hope that I can take a deep breath to make this statement. I spent a considerable year on PACE. I'd like to speak in that capacity, and I'd also like to speak as a citizen in Easton. What we're doing right now is rash and reckless. While I do believe we have things that we need to do in the town, school areas that need to be met, town budget needs to be realigned. This is not the way to do it. It pits one department against another. It has imbalance all over it. We're going to come back and we're going to be fighting like nobody's business. I'm just kind of keeping it in layman's terms. What we really should do is to sit down and to discuss where we have our needs, which has been done in the past. We've really wrestled with this. We need to come together as a town and to say where our priorities are. It's pretty clear hearing it here tonight that schools are our priorities, and I'm happy to live in the town of Easton that does have priorities such as the schools, but this is not the way to do it. Please join me in doing this the right way and not do it tonight in the wrong way. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Mr. Shea's motion? Okay. So we need to vote on Mr. Shea's motion.
I had a question about the motion before you go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
You're talking about 1.4 million, right? What is the school department giving back to the town? 1.8 million, is that correct?
This year, it was 1.79. Next year, it's reduced by 1.4 because we can do that with level services.
Okay, so you're giving them back 1.7 million, right? So we can't allocate that money to go to the school for next year?
We won't be able to hire anyone with it. I just want to be clear that one-time money is one time. If you hire somebody with it, you will immediately have to fire them, and then you will pay unemployment, so you will be in the hole from where you started. We're not talking about operational money year over year if you're talking about the 1.79.
I'm just saying, he's saying they're going to have to find it somewhere. That's what I said.
I would not
the money's
hire
there.
somebody with one-time money, because then we're immediately going to lay them off. It hurts our reputation, and then we're going to have to pay unemployment. It's just not responsible.
It's not your decision about the 1.4. There's something he just said for an amendment. If we pass it, it's not your problem.
No, I'm sorry, I thought you asked about the 1.79.
I asked about looking for 1.4 million, and where we find it rather than raise the taxes.
That's one-time money.
Okay, yes, yeah.
I want to try to say this in layman's terms myself. One of the things that we did last year to balance the budget is we used about a third of our savings account to do that, and we really depleted it. It's a very dangerous thing to do. I wouldn't do it in my household, and you wouldn't do it in yours. So that $1.4 million that came back, when we say it went to the town, it went back into to refill that money that was taken out. We never, in my time, I can never remember taking that much money out of savings account. It's very dangerous to do that. So to now say essentially what is being asked to do is take the money out of the savings account to use that, and you can't do that for one-time funds. So we were asked as a community to stay within our means, and here's how much money you have, no override, figure out how to do it. And the department heads, the schools, the town side have done the best that they can to do that. It's not perfect, but going back, this is the first budget that we've ever had that we haven't had to use the savings account to balance. To go back and take money out of the savings account to do that is very dangerous, and I just want people to think of it that way.
I am very cognizant of the fact that it isn't up to the school department what happens with the money. I just want to make sure we're making factual decisions. We are reducing an 8th grade team, but it's because we have less students. We had 284 this year, we have 251 next year, and that is without the 30 that we typically lose every year to private schools or to the vocational school. So we can absorb the movement of the 4 teachers. Far be it from me to not advocate for the schools. I've been here for 13 years, and I've done it every single year, and I've been at the State House, and I know the people that were sitting in the front row, and I have done as much as humanly possible to bring as much money into this town so it doesn't have to come from the taxpayers. But I have to be clear about using one-time funds, and it's in the name. It's one time, and it will put the school department actually in a hole if we get money back on a one-time basis. If you put the money back next year, we count on fire and police to respond for our students at school every day, for our teachers to help us with our crisis plans and our evacuations and our drills. We need them desperately. So I'm just speaking factually from the school department, not what you should do with your money, but I am telling you that we need them. And clearly, you also need them. But from a school district perspective, we need them more than we need, and this is crushing me to say out loud, an 8th grade team. I want to just finish that by saying it doesn't mean we're on easy street. I will be leaving next year, and the year after, you will be having this conversation again about whether you're going to have an override or how else you're going to fund ongoing payments, because we're a people business, we hire people, and so that's ongoing expenses every single year, and you really need to look at it that way. You're going to run into a fiscal cliff. We are running as lean as we're running because we know we depend on the services in the department to help us even in our schools.
Okay, any more questions, comments, or concerns on this motion? No? Okay, so we need to vote on the motion first that was presented by Mr. Shea, 40 Union Street, and was seconded by somebody in the audience. So in order for this motion to pass, I need a simple majority vote. All of those in favor of Mr. Shea's motion, which would be to increase the school department line budget by $1.4 million or so, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise the orange cards. And the motion fails. Okay. So now we go back to the school department. We're still on that school department line. I know there were a couple of people that were still waiting to make a comment, question, concern about that school department line as it was written.
Okay. Hi, hello. Stephanie Thayer, 110 Summer Street. Just a couple of things. I'm looking at this, and so these numbers that I'm looking at, this is the amount of money that's allocated, right? To each department. So I'm looking at police is getting just under 6 million, and fire and rescue is getting just under, just a little over 5 million, and school is getting 50 million. That's a significant difference, but every time we talk about we need more money, the first thing we want to cut is the people who run into the burning buildings and the ones who stop people from robbing us and stepping in front of bullets. And I don't understand that. I don't get why they're always the first ones to say we're going to cut them. No, we don't cut them. They should never even be part of the conversation. Period, end of story. Those are the people that are a whole town. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be the hated person here, but the school only services a certain subsection. They service the entire town. I don't think they should be a part of that conversation. They should never have to worry about, are we going to be understaffed? Are we going to be working 16-hour days and 20-hour days, and one person getting a paycheck for the year of over $300,000, not because that's his annual salary, but because that's how much overtime he's had to pull in order to make sure that everyone is able to sleep soundly in this beautiful, wonderful town of Easton that we live in. One of the reasons why we want to live here, it's not just the schools. Everyone focuses on the schools. How about the fact that we feel safe? That's an issue, and nobody ever seems to bring that up. We're worried about schools all the time. I get it. Schools are important. Our kids are important. But eventually, those little rugrats are going to grow up and move away. But we're still going to be here, and we're not going to be here for long because you guys keep taxing us. I'm looking at this budget, and it seems to me that you had the audacity, the unmitigated gall to come and say, we want more money from you when you had a budget. You're able to figure it out. You figured it out, just like I figured it out. Oh, by the way, I was part of that whole DHS don't get a paycheck for 76 days. I figured it out. Why can't we do that as a whole town? Why can't the town figure it out? Individuals are able to figure it out. When we don't have our savings, or we had to dip into our savings, we don't get to just go to the next person and say, you know what, next year we're just going to increase your taxes because we don't have a savings cushion anymore. The majority of people in this room don't have a savings cushion anymore because of our big, beautiful buildings that we don't have enough people to fund them and staff them for, but we have beautiful buildings. I love that. Our buildings are so pretty. But we don't have the people for it. Why? Because we don't have the money for it. Why? Because somewhere else there's a leak and we haven't figured out how to plug it yet. But I'm sorry, when I look at this on paper, I'm really disturbed. I'm angry at a $50 million line item for school, but less than $6 million for the people who protect us on all fronts.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, James Hopgood, 261 Depot Street. I'd like to go back to the fire department issue there with the ambulance. You said that was a wash.
Can I just stop you for a sec? I just need to remind everybody that we're on the school department line item. That's what we
I've been standing here for about 45 minutes.
I know, and that's the line item that we're on, is school department. So I just want to focus everyone to that.
Anybody else on the school department?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Hi, Phil Kelly, 8 Pheasant Lane. My real question is the consultants we used. Was there any PII in any of the information that was given to them? Any personal identifiable information? Because most of these companies have an opt-out clause where you have to go in and just want to make sure.
No personal information was provided.
Okay.
And everything was uploaded to them through a secure portal.
Cool.
So even if, in case something did get through, which it did not,
Great.
it still would have been through a secure portal.
Awesome. So I just have one more question too. So we've given 1.79 million back from the school budget after going through the budget again. You know, you were new, you were going through that. And people are mad that there's not more coming out of the school budget. I just don't really get that. So I guess that's not really a question for you, but thank you.
Anything else about the school department line item that was held?
My question is a little off the wall.
I just need your name and address, please.
Carol Cleary, Bay Road. When there was the question for our last voting on the additional monies and everything, and it was voted down, there was an awful lot of advertising by some group in town claiming that there was 1.7 million that outside auditors had said that was in the budget for the school department. I've never heard whatever happened to that, or was that not a truthful statement by whoever was organizing that campaign?
I don't know what you're referring to. We identified 1.7, returned it to the town, and then we asked for an operational review to make sure we've exhausted every possible thing, and they are doing that now. Their report is not available until June. So if someone said...
Is there some thing by outside auditors that there's 1.7 million floating someplace?
No, not that I'm aware of. CLA is the organization that's working with us, and they're not finished until June, so they haven't made a report.
And so you
Unless
don't
it's
know
something else.
from the outside auditors what really is accurate figures for the different departments? Because
I
you're not
only
going
know
to get
about the
the
school
information
department.
until June.
I'm sorry?
You're not going to get the information until June, so you really don't know if past monies are really accurate figures. Is that correct?
Well, we know, and we've gotten informal feedback that everything's going very well and we're right on target, but they're not making their full report until June because they're writing it now. And I don't think they would have spoken to anybody about it because they're making a formal presentation in June.
So the whole campaign against voting in our last election.
I don't know, ma'am, what you're referring to. I'm sorry. I don't know.
This is beyond the scope of
well,
the
it
school department
references
line item.
it references
Ma'am,
the
this is
school
beyond the
department.
scope of the school department line item, what we're discussing. Anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns on the school department line item as it reads? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the only other hold on the budget, which was solid waste and recycling enterprise. Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns on that line item, which was the only other one that was held?
Forget it.
You had the opportunity. Go
Excuse
ahead.
me. My name is Joseph Thayer at 110 Summer Street. I had a hold on the PEG access line item 63.120 is what my line item was.
Okay.
I also would like to-
Hang on 1 second, though. I just want to make sure no one else had, somebody said solid waste. No, am I mistaken on that? Okay. Okay, so go ahead. Last
I also would
line
like
item.
to address 01.155 information technology. So like I said, my name is Joseph.
No, that's not how we did this. We went through and we did the holds. So you just said we held the very last line item. So you have any questions, comments, or concerns on that one?
I do, but I
Okay.
also want to ask about that other line item.
Well-
Because what I would, let me speak, please.
No, I want you to,
So-
no, I want you to listen to me. All right? Last line item, you have a question, comment, or concern on that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's hear it.
So line item, this is number 11 of the top line items for $700,000, which is one We'd like to know, where is this money going to? What is it coming from? And why are we getting billed on our Xfinity, Comcast, and Easton Community Public Access channels? Where is that money going? Where is the itemized list of everything? I work in IT for 34 years. I've had multiple million-dollar contracts that I was responsible for. We should know where the money's coming from, where it's going to, the life cycle of the equipment that we're using to buy, the software we're using. That should be a line item that we should be able to look at.
So the money that you pay for Comcast and Verizon, it comes into the town. It goes into this PEG Access. It's an enterprise fund. The money basically goes in, but then it goes out to ECAT, who provides those services. So it's this line really just works as a pass-through for that money.
Okay, so the $700,000, that's money that the taxpayers have to pay the town. And we are budgeting, correct?
No, it goes to Comcast and Verizon. We get the money in from Comcast and Verizon. It doesn't come from you directly to us. It comes from Comcast and Verizon, based on the contract that we have. And that money just goes right out the door to ECAT to provide all of the programming for the town.
But every single one of us as residents who has some sort of cable TV company package, we pay a fee to them. We pay money to the FCC. We pay money to all their little nickel and dime line items that they have on our bills. Where does that reflect on this?
That's in that 700,000. We don't get a total 700,000. We make it to be 700,000. It's usually around just under 600,000 that we get in for the whole year. We estimate it at 7 just in case it comes in higher, because whatever we take in goes out to ECAT.
Okay, thank you. Madam Speaker, would it be allowed for me to speak about the IT infrastructure?
I specifically do it a certain way. I've been doing it like this for as long as I've been moderator. We went through every single line item you had the opportunity to hold. So, and that the only ones I heard held were those two. I didn't even hear that last one, and I was told that up here that those two that I heard were correct. So I'm going to pass on that. All right?
Thank you.
Hi, Brian Reisig, 199 Sheridan Street. Moderator, I call the question.
I know. Okay, so Article 6 requires a simple majority vote in order to pass. All of those in favor of Article 6, please raise your orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange card. And Article 6 passes by a majority. Article 7.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $2,494,575 for the purpose of meeting the capital budget needs of the town for fiscal year 2027 as listed in the warrant under Article 7. And to meet this appropriation, $261,426 shall be transferred from free cash, $6,834 shall be transferred from surplus funds voted pursuant to Article 6 of the November 14th, 2022 special town meeting. $13,765 shall be transferred from surplus funds voted pursuant to Article 4 of November 13th, 2023 special town meeting. $383,150 shall be transferred from surplus funds voted pursuant to Article 4 of the November 18th, 2024 special town meeting, and that the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow $1,829,400 for enterprise items under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling authority, and to authorize the select board to do or to take all necessary action or convenient to carry out these projects on behalf of or in the name of the town.
Second.
This is the annual capital budget for the town. Funding sources are available funds and long-term borrowing. A two-thirds majority of the vote is required for borrowing authorizations. All budget documents are available at www.easton.ma.us/budget. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article number 7? Okay, seeing none, Article number 7 requires a two-thirds majority vote in order to pass. All of those in favor of Article 7, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 7 passes by two-thirds majority vote. Article 8.
I move to dismiss Article 8.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article is no longer needed, and we recommend it be passed over.
Select Board.
Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
All those, in order to dismiss this, we need a simple majority vote. All those in favor of dismissing Article number 8, please raise those orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise your orange card. And Article 8 passes by a majority, dismissed by a majority. Article number 9.
I move that the town vote to amend the Town of Easton general bylaws by adopting a new Chapter 201 entitled Stormwater Utility Bylaw, as printed in the supplement titled Chapter 201 Stormwater Utility Bylaw.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article creates a new bylaw to create and govern the stormwater utility in the Town of Easton. It establishes the governance of the stormwater utility by the Select Board, acting as the Board of Stormwater Commissioners. The bylaw acts in tandem with the stormwater utility rules and regulations, which outlines the specifications for the stormwater utility fee. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Environmental Stewardship Committee. Okay, I believe we have a presentation for Article number 9. I think the presentation actually encompasses Article 10 as well, correct? Okay.
Correct. Yep. Alrighty. Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Hamilton, and I serve as the chair of the Stormwater Utility Steering Committee. Over the past several months, the committee, in coordination with the DPW, has been evaluating Easton's stormwater infrastructure, our regulatory obligations, and potential long-term funding strategies to address identified needs. Tonight, we're providing an overview of the situation and the committee's recommendation regarding the establishment of a stormwater utility. Before we get into the recommendation itself, I want to briefly explain what we mean by stormwater. Stormwater is rainwater or snowmelt that does not soak into the ground. Instead, it flows across roads, roofs, parking lots, and driveways into catch basins, culverts, pipes, streams, and wetlands. Like most infrastructure, you probably don't think about it until something fails. A flooded roadway, a collapsed culvert, or drainage backing up after a major storm. One thing the committee learned very quickly is the sheer scale of the infrastructure the town already owns and maintains. Easton has over 5,000 drainage structures, nearly 400,000 linear feet of drain lines, hundreds of outfalls and detention areas. A significant portion of this infrastructure is decades old and well beyond its intended service life. This is a large public infrastructure system, but most of it is underground and out of sight. Since 2003, Easton has been required to comply with the federal MS4 stormwater permit. This means the town is already legally required to perform and document stormwater management activities. This includes things like catch basin cleaning, street sweeping, outfall inspections, annual reporting, and more. The question tonight is not whether these obligations exist. The question is how we fund them reliably moving forward. The newer draft permit that's being worked on has expanded requirements and expanded these obligations we have significantly. They include additional education and outreach, formal asset management requirements, installation of stormwater control measures, and major catch basin replacement requirements. One example alone is that approximately 700 catch basins in Easton would need replacement over 5 years at an estimated cost of $2.8 million. The town also recently completed a stormwater asset management plan, focusing on the conditions for 112 culverts in Easton. The plan identified 8 particularly critical culverts requiring attention, with a recommendation to address them over the next 5 years, with total projected costs of that project nearing $17 million, or a little over $3.3 million per year. Importantly, the plan itself recommended that Easton investigate setting up a stormwater utility as a long-term funding strategy. All right. When we combine culverts, aging pipes, drainage infrastructure, and identified replacement needs, the town is currently looking at approximately $35 million in identified stormwater-related needs. To put that in perspective, the town recently, or within the last few years, had to reactively repair a sinkhole on Bay Road that appeared after one of our plow trucks plowed over it, was plowing the streets, only to realize they ended up putting a camera down, realizing that the stormwater pipes had completely disintegrated. There was just an outline of where the pipes were. So these aren't really hypothetical issues. They're already starting to happen. We can only foresee that potentially getting worse. Very quickly, Easton would not be unique in pursuing this approach. A growing number of Massachusetts communities, including nearby and comparable towns, have already adopted stormwater utilities over the past several years. This is becoming a fairly common municipal infrastructure funding model across the Commonwealth, and the establishment of a stormwater utility is recommended by the EPA. So with that, the committee did not arrive at this recommendation that we're presenting casually. The select board appointed the committee last September. Town meeting funded a feasibility study. We did work with outside technical assistance. We held public meetings, had a public input session, and evaluated multiple funding structures before arriving at this recommendation. So the overall fee structure here, the committee is recommending a flat fee of $25 per quarter for single-family homes and residential condo units, and a runoff-based structure for larger non-residential properties. The idea behind the funding model is fairly straightforward. Properties with larger amounts of hard surface, roofs, parking lots, generally contribute more runoff to the public drainage system that we're looking to start to replace and fix and maintain. The next slide, this visual, one of the most common questions we heard from the public, if you're already paying for this, why not fund this through taxation? The reality is the scale of the project, the scale of the infrastructure investment, to fund something like this, the next best option would be to fund this consistently over a period of time would be further discussions of Proposition 2.5 overrides. We did want to provide a visual representing the breakdown of how this fee will be shared should it be implemented. I had to think about this. On the left-hand side, my right-hand side, you see the total number of billable parcels. The vast majority, identified in blue, are residential. Those would be our homes for the most part. You can tell they would be paying the $100 a year, like I said earlier, the $25 per quarter. The small sliver of red is the total number of non-residential parcels that would be paying this fee. Compare that to the right-hand side, where you can see the non-residential properties again in the red. Paying the calculated fee, they would end up paying approximately 43% of the total revenue generated by this fee. So even though the vast majority of parcels in Easton are residential, over 40% of the total fee would be paid by the non-residential parcels. Because again, their fee is being calculated based on the impervious space on their property, on their parcel. So I think this slide maybe. So the mapping tool, to improve transparency, the town has also developed a public mapping application allowing property owners to review impervious area calculations associated with the parcels. So you're welcome to take a quick picture if you want and look up your parcel or parcels. Some of the examples of the types of stormwater-related infrastructure, operations, compliance activities, and equipment the utility could support. Existing capital equipment, such as our street sweeper and catch basin cleaner, will eventually need to be replaced. We would also look to move some existing personnel costs from the operating budget to this new enterprise budget to better reflect the level of staffing needed to maintain the stormwater infrastructure and to actually get this work done. We also need funding to comply with our annual stormwater permit and for disposal of street sweepings and catch basin cleanings. We could then dedicate the majority of this new revenue to the repair, maintenance, and replacement of aging infrastructure. This is really about creating a sustainable funding mechanism for stormwater-related work the town is already responsible for. So like was said earlier, most of this infrastructure is not visible. This is about community infrastructure and service reliability. For residents, some examples what this would mean: better roadway drainage, fewer emergency failures like the one I explained earlier, more proactive maintenance of our aging infrastructure, and better long-term resilience during heavier rain events. We did want to also address some of the misconceptions we have heard and feedback we have received from the community. This proposal does not create a new department. The recommendation also does not assume immediate staffing expansion. Rather, some existing stormwater-related costs and responsibilities would shift into this enterprise structure over time. Stormwater work does already exist within the DPW budget today. I know I've said it a few times. This is a breakdown of the DPW's budget. You'll notice in bold, kind of towards the bottom of the list, on the right-hand side, yeah, your right-hand side. Stormwater is already in the budget. However, you can see the amount officially allocated to stormwater at about a little under $25,000 in that budget. Simply doesn't meet the need that we've seen or that has been brought up through the stormwater asset management plan. It really doesn't allow the town to address larger long-term infrastructure needs like some of the projects we already reviewed. Lastly, another question we heard was whether private developments already manage their own drainage. In many cases, they do maintain portions of on-site infrastructure. However, runoff still ultimately interacts with and impacts the town's downstream drainage systems, roads, wetlands, culverts, etc. Next steps, tonight's vote is specifically on whether to adopt the utility structure and the associated bylaws. If approved, the regulations and implementation details would then move through the select board acting as stormwater commissioners, with billing anticipated to begin in fiscal year 27. Stormwater infrastructure is one of the town's least visible but most essential public systems. Every road, neighborhood, business district, school, and public facility depends on its functioning properly. The committee's conclusion was that the town faces significant existing infrastructure and regulatory obligations, and that a dedicated, transparent funding structure is the most sustainable long-term approach to addressing them. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. So any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 9?
Hi, Barbara Peterson, 910 Washington Street, which is Route 138, a state highway. 1, you don't take care of my culverts at all. 2, you don't sweep my street. Only the state does it because it's a state highway. Does that mean I'm going to get some kind of a discount on my taxes because you aren't taking care of my stuff?
Yep, that's a good question. Very quickly, the stormwater, when it rains, hits your roof, hits your driveway, hits the state roads, it still ultimately all flows into the same place where we then... Right, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is in Easton, which is why we would be, one of the reasons we would be implementing this fee for everyone who lives in Easton.
John Hopgood, 41 Foundry Street. This town has a lot of condo complexes. And these condo complexes have their own drainage systems, their own catch basins. Water runoff from the structures are usually piped to those and then run off into their appropriate areas. Does this law mean that now the town of Easton is going to go onto those properties and clean their catch basins? Because they don't now. They don't sweep their driveways, but you want us to pay for all that.
Good evening. Dave Field, I'm the Director of Public Works. That's a great question. It's a question we've gotten a lot. So yes, private developments, condo developments, commercial developments, they are required to have stormwater drainage systems to comply with the rules and regulations when they were built. In no case do I know of any development in town that manages or keeps 100% of the stormwater on site. They have to attenuate the peak rate of runoff, which they do. They have to, clean their own catch basins and sweep, but ultimately it still discharges to either a town drainage system or stream, wetland that goes through town culverts. So that's why this fee applies to everyone uniformly, because everyone still contributes to the ultimate stormwater runoff.
The stormwater runoff you're talking about goes back into the aquifer, and you don't own it.
So no, actually it doesn't. Most of the time, that stormwater runoff discharges through an outfall. I've gotten probably about 20 of these questions during the development of this process, and so everyone I talked to, hopefully they understood the answer. I showed them exactly, where their outfalls are. Some developments have multiple outfalls that go into streams. Those streams then go under, through culverts and things like that. We have quite a number of culverts in town that all need work. So it's a uniform process.
And here again with the condos, you're going to be billing by unit as by complex. And those complexes all go into a central system.
Again, everything still runs off eventually into a town drainage system and through town culverts.
So that makes us eligible for street sweeping and catch basin cleaning, is what you're telling me, because it eventually goes into the town system.
Again, we would not take over responsibility of existing private developments that were required to do certain things when they were permitted and built, but we maintain our own infrastructure, our own drainage systems, our own culverts, which still have to be maintained.
So the bottom line is, what you're telling this whole audience, you're going to pay for something you don't get.
So no one here lives on an island. So everyone to get to their development has to go over town streets, town culverts, town drainage systems. We have $35 million of identified needs, just in 3 examples, and the money has to come from somewhere. I'm fine with it coming from anywhere. If you can identify a source, I'm happy to have it, but there is no other source we know of right now, so that's why it's recommended we adopt this program.
I don't think so.
Steve Drown, 101 Mill Street. What would be the annual revenue associated with this bylaw fee?
It would be approximately $1.3 million.
Every year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yes, William Van Lahoven, 319 Foundry Street. As you all know, they're doing that road work on 138, which has been a mess for so long. And that's one of the things they're doing is drainage on that property, on that road there. And they've been spending, I've been over there over 20 years, and that road has been flooded ever since. For the last 20 years, it's been flooding over. There's a culvert's been there for a lot longer than that period of time. It's been collapsed, and they're finally putting it together. But even when it did collapse, a couple days later, if you had heavy rains, the water's gone. We've built this system to pipe water under the ground. Now we got to maintain it. Before, we had water runoff, surface road runoff, but instead of letting it run off the side of the road into wherever they were aquifers, natural aquifers, we've filled them all in with development. We've built sidewalks and curbstones so it keeps the water on the road rather than letting it get off the road. So we're creating a problem that now we got to take care of. And it's expensive. It isn't cheap. Before, I live on a street where it doesn't have it. I'm on 106. It's a state highway. Are the state taking care of all these, or is the town taking care of this? That's number one question. Could you answer that for me?
Can I answer that before I get lost? 106 is a town road, so that's town maintained.
The town maintain that?
Yep.
What about 123? Are we doing 123 as well?
Yes, everything on 123 is town-owned except for Belmont Street. That is state-owned.
So that project going on, this town is paying a portion of that, is that state granted? Is the state granting
The
that
project
money?
you're talking about, are you talking about
The
138?
whole road, they're redoing the whole road up by the Union Villa and all that.
Yeah, that's
project.
138, so that's a
Right.
state project. And again, that's a project to add a signalized intersection, a little past the scope of this, but anytime you do a project like that, we're required to put in sidewalks. Those sidewalks now need drainage, so things work properly. So there's a lot of infrastructure that's needed, and that's infrastructure that's
Is the state
desperately needed.
offering grant money to do this, or is the town isn't paying that directly? That's
So
getting paid.
that is being paid for by state and federal tip funding.
Okay. And that's a town road that the state's taking care of, is that correct?
That's not a town road. That 138 is a state road.
Oh, 138's a state road?
Yes.
But 106 is a town road?
Correct.
Okay. Now, 123, is that a town road or a state
It's
road?
a town road except for Belmont Street.
Except for Belmont Street. Okay, so the state does offer grants to help along with these types of projects, though, is that correct?
So that project is being funded by state and federal funding through our tip process.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Mike Goodman, 159 Bay Road. Why don't we just call this what it is? It's just another tax. It's a lot of duplicitous activities that we're already paying for. And, you know, like catch basin cleaning, we're already doing it. It's already part of the yearly purview of the DPW to do. Similar, so what are we gonna do next? Because we don't have enough money to pay for things we should be doing now under our stormwater permits. Are we gonna say we don't have enough money to fix all the streets, so let's have a separate fund for that? It just, when does it stop? As far as some of the, a comment and a question about the, maybe the second to last slide where it shows that approximately 40%, I believe you said, Mr. Hamilton, is going to be paid by, it was the one with the pies. Yes, that one right there, thank you. The revenue generation is going to come from, 40% is going to come from the all
Non-resident.
others, and assuming the businesses, the 6 businesses that do towns. We have no money because we didn't allow businesses to come here. Businesses don't want to come to Easton. They haven't wanted to come here for 30 years because we just browbeat them and we micromanaged them. And planning, conservation, we just permit them to death. Businesses don't want to come here. This is a perfect example. So the businesses in town are being asked to shoulder 40% of another bill yet again. And yet again, you know what? They're just not going to come. They're just not going to come. And to Mr. Hopgood's point about the condos and all that, they're already paying. What happened to the money for the fees that the builders and the developers have paid engineers to engineer products to meet the stormwater criteria, to meet the 5% improvement? You know, where'd all that money go? That goes into, for those who don't know, that's what makes a permit cost X. Is how much it costs, and the cost of projects is directly related to the amount of engineering, and it's just, when does it end? It's just another tax. Vote no.
Oh, yep, go ahead.
Greg Shea, 40 Union Street. You know, a lot of people are talking about, like, yeah, this is going to cost more money, all that kind of stuff. You know, anybody who owns a house knows that's how it goes. You live in a house, it costs money every year, and sadly, those prices go up every year. Like, we live in a town. The town costs money. Those prices go up. With $35 million worth of infrastructure improvements in 3 projects. And how much is this going to cost annually per taxpayer?
For residents, it'd be $100 a year.
$100 a year extra. Yeah, this year, right. Every year it'll be $100, which if you break that down into 52 weeks, you can do the math. It's not a ton of money. So you can vote yes or no, but I mean, like, at what point are we going to say, like, yeah, gas went up, that's horrible, groceries went up, that's tough, and, like, the cost of, like, running our town is going up, so we need to invest in it or it's going to fall apart for us, for our kids, and for future residents. Thanks.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Joe Dorfler, 51 Meeting House Lane. I was actually on the Stormwater Committee, and one thing just to keep in mind is that, you know, people are saying that we're already paying for this, but we're really not. I mean, this is infrastructure that put into place decades and decades ago. I mean, this is not something that's already being done, that's being paid for. These culverts are going to start collapsing. They already are collapsing, and then we're going to have roads that are falling down. We're going to have floods. I mean, we're going to have, people aren't going to be able to get places. I mean, you were talking about businesses not wanting to come here. They're going to want to see that we have infrastructure. They're going to want to see that we have culverts that work, and we don't have to worry about flooding if things start breaking and raining a lot, which is what's going to happen. And this is, what, a little over $8 a month to help keep that from happening? I mean, to me, that's a trade-off. To me, $8.30, $8.35 a month is a trade-off to have roads that work and floods that don't come and trees that don't fall down and block things. I mean, to me, it just seems like a common sense thing. I think it's a common sense measure. I think it's just a common sense move to do to vote in favor of it.
Go ahead.
Patty Webster, 8 Avis Circle. I guess I just have one comment being, I think everyone in the room is sensitive right now to the cost, the fact that we're on the back of 2 failed overrides. So timing-wise, it's not ideal to present an idea like this tonight, given the sensitivity. I think Denise Higgins' point earlier was an important one, that we want to do things the right way and do it thoughtfully and consider what all the priorities are for the town. Having said that, there's some things in this bylaw in the back pages I just wanted some clarification on. It says the Board of Selectmen will be the commissioners and that they'll set the annual rate. So while we're talking about $100 now, the actual bylaw reads that the rate gets set every year, and it's meant to cover the day-to-day operations, maintenance, capital projects, and may include a schedule of fees based on the impervious area. So the fees can be adjusted on an annual basis, but it doesn't come back to this meeting the way that I read it. The fees get set and they're subject to a public hearing. So what is the thought behind if it's meant to cover all of these projects? And I think you had a slide up there with several $1 million in projects. These fees won't cover that based on $100 a year. So what is that number going to look like 2 years, 3 years out, based on the projects you already know about, so that we understand what it is we're really voting here tonight?
Thank you. That's a great question. So all of our assets require a lot more than we're able to fund to maintain them where we, in a perfect world. We need more money for our roads. We have a $15 million backlog. We need tens of millions, actually probably hundreds of millions on a water system to put it to a spot where we'd have great pressure zones for everyone. Those things just aren't possible. We know that. So the $35 million in identified needs, those are needs. It doesn't mean we're going to fund it $35 million in a year and get there. This is a starting point, which is a reasonable starting point to start knocking off bigger projects. When we have a culvert that needs to be replaced, which we do, we have 8 of them that have been identified, we can start going on the priority list and doing a $2 or $3 million project every year or 2 or 3, depending on the budget. So that's what it's really for. Your question about the rate setting. So yes, the select board would act as the stormwater commissioners, like they do for the sewer and for water. And then town meeting would approve any budget. So again, there'd be a hearing. The select board have done a great job, in my opinion, of managing our sewer and our water rates. And the same thing, that any budget would be approved by town meeting for the stormwater. No, again, the select board as stormwater commissioners would set the rate. And I don't know if the select board have any thoughts on going higher than our recommendation, but at this point, our recommendation is $100 flat fee for residential units and a calculated fee for all other units. I don't think there's any anticipation or desire to change that anytime in the near future.
Somying Monroe, 6 Drake Street. In relation to the rate, I just want to speak on behalf of my neighbor who's on a fixed income. And $100 a year doesn't sound like a lot to a lot of us, But for her, whose utility bills went up, just like the rest of us, $100 is a lot. And it's not, frankly, it's not fair to her because she has a tiny residential house compared to some of the larger homes in Easton who would have more stormwater issues. So keep that in mind. There are people in Easton on a fixed income. So thank you.
Sir, go ahead.
Jay Casison, 683 Washington Street. I'm the highway supervisor, and let me talk to you a little bit about, from a nuts and bolts point of view here. We have a bunch of drainage that were literally put in by farmers a couple hundred years ago. Granite culverts that are in desperate need of being replaced. The pictures that you saw on Bay Road was a 2-foot diameter corrugated metal pipe that caved in and created a sinkhole that would have swallowed a car. That's not the only place that we have that situation. There is a ton of that type of maintenance that needs to be done, and it's pretty much an emergency type of situation at this point. You saw a number of 1,400 catch basins that were cleaned last year. By the DEP standards, that's 25% of what we're supposed to be doing. But we don't have the manpower. We do the best we can. We have structures that are built out of stone. We have pipe that is clay that goes back literally 200 years. So there is a ton of nuts and bolts maintenance that $25,000 line item doesn't even remotely come close to taking care of. So consider that when you make your vote. Thanks.
Hi, Stephanie Thayer, 110 Summer Street. So I just want to make sure I understand. We're saying it's $100 a year so that we can start taking, we're trying to eat the elephant, right? One bite at a time. So we have $35 million that need to be done, but we need to start somewhere, and this is where we're choosing to start. And as someone said, you guys are saying, hey, we're saying $100 a year, but next year, that may be adjusted. And I think the problem is people say, don't keep swinging it at us at the last minute and say, oh, by the way, the fecal matter hit the oscillating rotator, and now we need this amount of money from you, right? Like, we get it. Stuff needs to be taken care of. And yes, our streets do need to be taken care of because, again, fire and police, they need to be able to get to us. So yeah, everyone's on a fixed income, not just the people that, are retired. It's a lot of people are on a fixed income. Even people who are actively working are on a fixed income, right, in today's world. I do think that we do need to look at this, but I also think that you need to start somewhere. Maybe not put it in writing that every year, but maybe put it in writing that you promise for the next 5 years there will be no increase no matter what. And then you will get it. But you have to start giving us deadlines, and you have to start giving us, guarantees that we're not going to keep changing the number every year. And I get it. This is all supposition. But you know what? I just heard earlier that we estimated $700,000 for the Comcast, whatever, PEG access, when we really think it's only $600,000. So we're overestimating anyway. So let's overestimate with that and keep it reasonable. But I think that's where you guys lose a lot of us, is you tell us one thing one year, and then next year it's a whole nother number after you find money, after we give it back, and then we say, well, you didn't need it to begin with. Why did you ask us for more money? That's where we kind of get upset about it. Thank you.
So from the select board's perspective, what I'll say is we're all residents and we're all facing the same kind of budgetary constraints in our own lives like you are. We have to deal with this ourselves too. We're elected because we're supposed to do the research and make the recommendations to the community. Every year there might be a different board. The board votes on this every year. I can say that for myself. I am happy to remain, keep this, but we can't put it, it's not something that's binding to put something in writing like that because there'll be different elected officials in different years. You have to go based on your gut of what we've shown. We have not done, I don't think the board has done anything irresponsible to say it's one thing and then make it something different. Budgets, the example of, putting a little bit of extra money in the budget, the way that the municipal budgets work is that you can't overspend. So if you run out of money, people don't get paid. You can't do that. So there has to be a little bit of a cushion in all of the budget line items. It's not millions of dollars. $100,000, you know, that money gets recycled back into that enterprise account. I think that we're looking at, we have a budget. We can't find $1 million or $2 million a year out of it to do this work. We're asking for $100 a year per family to be able to take care of this infrastructure. Kicking the can down the road and not fixing it, there's never a good time to do it. Every single town meeting, we could have done it 10 years ago, we could do it in 5 years. People are still not going to want to pay more money. I don't want to pay more money. But I do want roads, I do want my yard and my neighborhood not to be flooded, and I want that ties into public safety as well. This committee that did all the research on this are your neighbors. They're people that spent a ton of time looking at this. So once a year we have town meeting. You can't do that study in a night, the people that are here. That's why we're relying on them and their advice. Our DPW director is winning national awards just about every year. He's celebrated in his field. We count on him and his team to make these recommendations to us. $100 a year is, I know it's tough for some people, but overall, look at the risk versus the reward. If we don't do this for $100 a year now, we're going to really fall into big disrepair, and then it's, you know, multiple thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on short order to fix it. So I just ask people to think about it like that.
Anthony Solimini, 446 Bay Road. I just wanted to say that I'm only 19. This is my first town meeting. I'm in college more than half the year, not here, but I would gladly give up a Disney Plus subscription, which is double the cost of this per year, or no, half the cost of this. Disney Plus costs $200 a year to come home to a working road. So just think about that, please.
Joel Antolini, 30 Highland Street. To me, this is a tip of an iceberg kind of scenario where we're beginning to now parcel out items that you've already listed as part of the Department of Public Works work lists. It's part of the stormwater runoff is part of what you do. So that would be like the library saying, well, we need new books, let's have an enterprise fee for new books. Or a school department would say, well, there's the potential that students might fail a class, we need to have an enterprise fee for the students to retake a class. And the list can go on and on and on. So I'm just a little concerned that if you have it on your budget already, and I think it was around $23,000 for the line item for the year, and you know that you need to make ramifications on the roadways and the stormwater runoff and everything else, then budget it, and then let it come to this forum in a formalized process that's part of everyone's process, not just a standalone. Again, it's the tip of the iceberg. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Joe Thayer from 110 Summer Street. For the sake of transparency, on our property tax, on the back of the page, can you guys put what the money's going towards and itemize it down on the back so we all know what it's used for? Is that possible?
I'm not sure if that's possible, but what I can tell you is that we have a budget book that's online, and every single line item of every penny that's spent in the town is in that budget book. I'd be happy to sit down with you or anybody here that wants to take a look at that and navigate it. We go through these at every meeting that we have. Now, I know that we don't get a lot of public people coming to our meetings. They're very, very exciting a lot of the times, but we welcome you. Reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you about it and help you find this information. It's not a secret, but we talk about it at every meeting. So it is something that we hope that people will look at, ask us questions. If enough people want to, we'll put together a workshop and we'll show you how does a municipal budget work. These questions that people are frustrated with, I get it, because we look at it all the time and you don't. The terminology is different. It works different than a budget in your household with the laws and the rules that we have to work at. And I would be happy, reach out, email the select board. I'll set up a workshop and people can come, and we love talking about this stuff, and we'd be really happy to talk about it with you. But all the money, it's easy to find out where it is, and it's all online for everyone to see.
Jacob Napodi, 17 Turnpike Street. I was wondering, what was the cost of that emergent fix on Bay Road after that culvert collapsed?
Thanks, that's a great question. $125,000 was the material cost, and we don't have that line item, so we had $35,000 in our budget over the last 10 years. It varies depending on the year what we spend on that, but we spent about $25,000 in the previous year that I put up on the slide there. That $125,000 had to come from somewhere, so it came from Chapter 90. It's an allowable expense for Chapter 90. That's less roads we pave because we had to take it out of Chapter 90. We have had other emergency issues before. We had a culvert collapse on South Street. We were able to get a small bridge grant. We have another culvert on Main Street that we've gotten a small bridge grant for as well. So we've got $1 million in bridge grants to fix those, but those are very competitive and happen every 10 years. So the idea of having 112 culverts, and 8 of them being critical condition, there's just no way for us to fix those culverts without something like this utility. But $125,000 was the pipe and material cost. The labor was not included in that because it was done with DPW forces.
Thank you.
We spent a lot of money here tonight, whether we like it or not.
I need your name and address, please.
I'm sorry. George Wheeler, 10 Lothrop Street. We spent a lot of money here tonight. No, earlier we said we're not accountants, we don't know that. But I've been fortunate to have a lot of conversations with the Director of Public Works, and I think he knows what he's talking about. And if he's recommending it, I'd go for it. I've talked to many of his men, and they would lay down in the street if there was a hole in it just so people could get by. $35,000. We're going to run the limit for a couple more years on this 2.5 deal. So spent $35,000 there. Yeah, it's $100 a person, but spent $35,000, and it's behind us. That's all I had to say.
Okay, so Article 9 needs a simple majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor of Article 9, please raise those orange cards. And all of those opposed, please raise your orange cards. I think so. I'm going to ask you to do it again. Put your cards down. Okay. All those in favor, again, it's a simple majority vote. Sorry, up, down, up, down. Simple majority vote. All of those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise those orange cards. Okay, it passes, simple majority. Okay, Article 10.
What I do? Just leave it?
Just read.
Okay.
Hurry up, Jen.
Okay.
I don't want anyone leaving.
Okay, Article 10. I move that the town vote to, 1, accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half, to establish a stormwater utility enterprise fund effective July 1st, 2026, fiscal year 2027, and 2, accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 83, Sections 16A, 16B, 16C, 16D, 16E, and 16F, which statutes provide for a method of collection of stormwater utility rates.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article accepts the provisions of state law allowing the town to separately manage and account for the revenue and expenses related to providing stormwater utility services to property owners. A Stormwater Enterprise Fund 1 allows the town to account for and manage specific stormwater and water quality-based activities separate from the general fund. 2 allows operating costs, fees, and capital project costs to be charged to the stormwater system's users rather than the general fund. And 3 mirrors the successful fee-based method of operations for the current Easton water system and sewer system by building a self-sufficient stormwater utility that balances stormwater expenses with stormwater enterprise revenue sources. The Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Environmental Stewardship Committee? Any questions, comments, or concerns about Article 10? Okay, seeing none, Article 10, it requires a simple majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise your orange card. And Article 10 passes by a simple majority. Article 11.
I move that the town vote to amend its meetings bylaw, Chapter 44 of the Town Code, by modifying the existing language of Section 44-2, Annual Town Election, by adding the bold language and deleting the strike-through language as printed in the warrant.
Second.
By way of explanation, this bylaw was changed at the special town meeting held on November 30th, 2020, under Article 9 to allow the Select Board to move the date of the town election from the fourth Tuesday in April to any other day, only upon scheduling a public hearing at which the public could see and hear their deliberation to vote to schedule the coming annual town election. Under the current bylaw, the time frame to schedule the annual town election is restricted to between April 15th and April 30th, which became troublesome with the majority of potential election dates being solely during or around April school vacation week. This amendment would change the date of the annual town election to be held in May to avoid conflicts with April school vacation. It would also adjust the date range to change the annual town election day with a public hearing to encourage dates after April school vacation week and prior to the annual town meeting. Other than set by bylaw, the only way to change the annual town election date would be to seek a court order. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 11? Okay, hang on.
Gary Erickson, 134 Sheridan Street. Just some clarification questions. Right now, is there a process to change annual town meeting through town election through town meeting?
You mean right now as in town meeting?
Currently, yes. Before this, can town meeting change when town elections are? Currently.
Yeah, only through passing the bylaw. That's what we're trying to do tonight. Is allow.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Only by changing the bylaw. That's what we're trying to do tonight. I'm not sure I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Okay, so what I'm picking up, and maybe this is the civics teacher in me, are we moving a legislative power to the judicial branch?
No.
So currently, the only way to change town meeting now is through court order, and this is
Either
this
here
is going
or
to keep
through
that?
court order. Those are our two options for this. And we've discussed the dates in the Select Board for several years, and this has been an ongoing discussion. And yes, this is the option to do this, or court order.
So the town bylaws say that town meeting has to approve the changing in process of when town elections are.
Correct, or court order. That's the other option.
And will town meeting be able to do that in the future, should they still want to?
If we want to bring it to the warrant again, another article, yes, we could do that in the future.
Thank you, that clarifies my question.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 11? Okay, seeing none, Article 11 requires a simple majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 11 passes by simple majority. Article 12.
Okay, Article 12. I move that the town vote to appropriate or reserve from Community Preservation Fund annual revenues the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for administrative expenses, the required allocation of funds, the payment of debt service, and other expenses in fiscal year 2027, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation as printed in the warrant.
Second.
By way of explanation, this article proposes the fiscal year 2027 budget for the Community Preservation Committee. Amounts to be funded shall be considered separate appropriations.
Select Board.
Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Community Preservation Committee. Any comments, questions, or concerns relative to Article 12?
Yes, Steve Drown, 101 Mill Street. In the article, annual budget reserve, that's just for 2027. Could someone tell me how much money there is in the bank, so to speak, roughly, that we have for CPA funds?
The Community Preservation Fund has an unreserved fund balance of $6,873,961.
$6 million. Now, we have a couple articles after this recommending spending some money. Can somebody tell me, are there any big ticket items that we're looking at that we want to spend some of this $6 million on, other than the 40,000, 55,000, whatever?
I'd defer to the CPA committee.
Hang on, Ed, I want to give you a microphone because I can't hear you.
Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. When the CPC was originally organized, we drew up a list of priority parcels and programs. And most of the big ticket items are land purchases. We don't have a lot of small parcels of land anymore, so there are half a dozen or so big parcels. If we ever had to buy them, it would require an expenditure of money. Over the last 2 years, because of the town's fiscal crisis, what we've tried to do is limit the amount of expenditures that CPC has done. As you all probably know, we're only allowed to spend your money on your vote for 3 items: historical preservation, conservation and recreation, and finally, affordable housing. So we've tried to not do any of that, reserving funds for capital expenditures in those areas in case the town needed something. Luckily, we haven't had to expend it, and therefore we're able this year to ask you guys to make the decision, it's always your decision, to come up with these small ticket items. So,
Is the Clover Valley Farm part of on your list?
well, we don't like to specify which ones are, but that's certainly a large parcel of land. I could list the other ones too, but then you all know, you know.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 12? Okay, seeing none, Article 12 requires a simple majority vote. To pass, all those in favor of Article 12, please raise those orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise those orange cards. And Article 12 passes by a simple majority. Article 13.
I move that the town will vote in accordance with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of $55,000 from Community Preservation Historic Resources Reserves for exterior restoration of the Children's Museum in Easton. By way of explanation, this article would provide $55,000 for exterior restoration of the historic fire station now used as a Children's Museum in Easton, including roofs, windows, doors, porches, stairways, and painting. The Children's Museum has received a $234,730 CPA grant and an additional $129,000 Mass Cultural Council grant to assist with this restoration. This additional CPA grant will fund unanticipated project costs related to construction cost increases.
Select Board
recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Community Preservation Committee. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 13? Okay, seeing none. Article 13 requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your orange cards. All those opposed, please raise your orange cards. And Article 13 passes with a simple majority. Article 14.
I move that the town vote in accordance with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to appropriate the sum of $40,000 from Community Preservation Historic Resources Reserves for tower roof restoration at Oaks Ames Memorial Hall, contingent on the Oaks Ames Memorial Hall Association Incorporated securing the remainder of the funds necessary to complete the project. By way of explanation, this article would provide $40,000 for restoration of the copper roof at the base of the northeast tower at Oaks Ames Memorial Hall. Patches to the deteriorated roof have failed and water infiltration is damaging the building's structure and interior finishes. The hall is covering the balance of the estimated $150,000 project costs with donations and grants. If the hall does not secure the remainder of the project costs, this CPA grant will be returned to the CPA fund. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Community Preservation Committee. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 14? Seeing none, Article 14 requires a simple majority vote. In order to pass, all those in favor, please raise your orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise your orange card. And Article 14 passes by a majority. Article 15.
I move that the town vote in accordance with the Community Preservation Act and a prior vote of the 2009 annual town meeting to authorize the Select Board to grant a conservation restriction on a parcel of conservation land on the southerly side of Massapog Avenue as printed in the warrant. By way of explanation, this article would authorize the town to convey a conservation restriction or CR on a parcel of conservation land acquired with Community Preservation Act funds at the May 18, 2009 annual town meeting, which omitted such authorization from the vote language in error. The state enabling legislation for the Community Preservation Act requires the conservation land acquired with CPA funds be additionally protected with a conservation restriction held by a qualified third party. The town is working with Wildlands Trusts Incorporated to finalize the required CRs on Easton CPA acquired conservation properties. Select Board recommends.
Finance Committee recommends.
Community Preservation Committee. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 15? Yes, please.
Hi, Stephanie Thayer, 110 Summer Street. I just need a little bit of clarification on what exactly this CR is. I mean, I just need it, just Barney it down for me, please. What does that mean, conservation restriction? What does that look like? I don't understand what I'm voting on.
How are you, Wayne? Good, how you doing? Hi, I'm Wayne Beitler. I'm staff support for the CPC. A conservation restriction is a deed rider. So it's attached to the deed to the property, and it prohibits certain activities and allows certain other activities. So a conservation restriction prevents, say, development, clear cutting, this sort of thing. So it's a very common tool to protect the conservation values of properties that are used and acquired for conservation use.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 15? Okay, seeing none, Article 15 requires a simple majority vote in order to pass. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise your orange card. And Article 15 passes by a simple majority. Article 16.
I move that the town take no action on Article 16.
Second.
And I don't know if we have an explanation of this report. Yeah, so this is one of the citizens petitions. It's the proposed amendment to add new subsection 235, XX Chapter 235, Article 8, Special Residential Regulations, and the Select Board does not recommend.
Finance Committee does not recommend.
So we need a simple majority vote for taking no action on Article number 16. All those in favor of taking no action on Article number 16, please raise those orange cards. And all those opposed, please raise those orange cards. And Article 16, no action taken by a simple majority vote. Article 17.
So, Jacqueline Benvey, 93 Kennedy Circle. Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend Chapter 235 of Article 17, Administration and Enforcement, by adding a new section, Section 235-58.x, as printed in the warrant. By way of explanation, this amendment simply creates a courtesy notice requirement so that neighbors within 300 feet are informed at least 7 days before a Planning and Zoning Board meeting involving site plan review of exempt uses in residential neighborhoods. These uses can include commercial child care centers, churches, or solar energy fields. The goal is greater transparency and better communication with residents.
Thank you. Select Board.
Select Board do not recommend.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee doesn't recommend.
Planning and Zoning Board recommendation.
Good evening, everyone. Kenneth Kirkland, Director of Planning and Community Development, also staff to the Planning and Zoning Board. March 17th, 2026, they voted 3-2 to not recommend.
Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to Article 17? Go ahead.
Dale Carrister, 21 South Street. I'm very much in favor of this. It's a simple article that requires public notification so that folks actually receive some notice and have the opportunity to be heard with the Planning and Zoning Board regarding exempt uses. It doesn't require any action being taken by the Planning and Zoning Board, but it does give the neighbors an opportunity to be heard. I'm one of the folks who live down in the Furnace Village area, and we got actively organized when the sewer project came through. We have an email group of about 165 folks that include residential, the condominiums, single-family homes, and the businesses. I personally take a look at the agenda for the Planning and Zoning Board and distribute an email to that group so folks are aware and can then speak accordingly to issues that affect our area. And we've had a lot of projects going on in our area. The Planning and Zoning Board does extraordinarily important work. The projects are not only important to the developers and whoever may be a proponent of a project, but have huge impact on the surrounding areas. I had the opportunity to listen to the group that put this petition together on 2 occasions when they presented in front of the Planning and Zoning Board. And if I understand correctly, they were caught by surprise on something that was voted on and acted by the Planning and Zoning Board without having had an opportunity to be heard. I think that's the genesis of this. I feel very strongly that it's important for the citizens and the neighbors' voices to be heard, and that at the very least the Planning and Zoning Board can take that into consideration. They can vote accordingly however they're going to act on these exempt uses, but the neighbors should be heard. Thank you.
Jessica Zimmerman, 82 Kennedy Circle.
So I live in the Kennedy Circle neighborhood. I want to make something very clear tonight. This article does not benefit me or my neighbors. What has already happened in my neighborhood cannot be undone. I am speaking tonight because I do not want another Easton neighborhood to experience what ours did without meaningful notice or the opportunity to be heard. Our neighborhood is a closed residential loop. The only traffic that traditionally enters our neighborhood was residents, guests, and delivery drivers. Yet under the current interpretation of the Dover Amendment and our local bylaws, a single-family home at the very back of our neighborhood was converted into a child care center, approved for up to 36 children and 6 employees. That translates into dozens upon dozens of additional vehicle trips every single day for drop-offs and pickup activity. Regardless of how anyone feels about childcare, this bylaw amendment is fundamentally about notice, transparency, and protecting residential neighborhoods. Most residents in Easton have no idea that a by right use under the Dover Amendment can dramatically change the intensity of use of residential property with very limited neighborhood notification. This citizen's petition is simply asking for better notification so residents are aware of what is being proposed before decisions are made that permanently impact their neighborhood, traffic patterns, safety, and quality of life. The Select Board and Zoning Board may not recommend this article, but I respectfully ask voters to think beyond my street and beyond this single situation. Ask yourselves, if this happened on your road, would you want to know before it was approved? This article is about transparency, fairness, and giving residents a voice before significant changes occur in residential neighborhoods across Easton. I urge you to support Article 17. Thank you.
Doug Lewis, 97 Kennedy Circle. Madam Moderator, one of the many reasons I'm here tonight is to support Article 17. This article is simply asking for the town to follow a similar notification process they currently have in place for a host of activities. For example, if your neighbor is building a garage, as an abutter, you are formally notified of such. The notification gives the abutter the heads up. What the abutter does or doesn't do from there is at their discretion. At least they are aware. This is just one example. The list goes on and on. Yet, for activities/exemptions related to Massachusetts General Law 40A, Section 3, better known as the Dover Amendment, currently there is no notification process/procedure from the town. Not having a notification process in place for Dover Amendment activities makes zero common sense. I am in favor of Article 17 to amend the notification process. I highly recommend my fellow Easton residents here tonight to also vote in support of Article 17. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Suzanne Bump, 6 House Shop Street, Madam Moderator. I'm just curious, I don't have a position on this. I'd like to gain a little bit more information. Perhaps someone from one of the committees that voted not to recommend this might explain why they voted against this. Thank you.
So I'll say from the Select Board perspective, we're hearing tonight that we don't have enough money to do things. There's a cost to putting out notifications in staff time and in paperwork costs and postage and research and all of that, so forth. It's not a ton of money, but it is some money that has to be accounted for. In the case of the Kennedy Circle, that daycare centers in Massachusetts are an exempt use and can be built by right in a neighborhood. So whether there was notification or not, it was allowed by right. There's nothing the Select Board or the Planning Board could do. It's an allowed use. Another thing that I heard tonight is that we bash businesses and we make it very difficult for them to do businesses. But then we hear that there's a business there that's taking care of our children in a daycare center, And we want to bully them and push them out by going to these meetings and harassing them and giving them a really hard time. They're a business in our community, and I just think that that's something that we should consider. They have by state law, they have a right to be there, and that's the whole story.
So Jessica Zimmerman, 82 Kennedy Circle, I wholeheartedly agree with you. It is their by right use. We are not looking to change what's happened in our neighborhood. We are looking for notification. We were not notified until the parking lot was paved. That's how we found out. We had to go online, pull up all the records, and see that a residence in our neighborhood was converted into a child care center. She was already running an in-home daycare. This is not about the business that's happening. This is about being able to appear when these changes are made and you guys make these decisions to let you know that our bus stop is a half mile up the street with no sidewalks. At the same time that these cars are driving into the neighborhood, not paying attention with no stop signs because it's a neighborhood. So it's about safety concerns and being able to address those prior to the rubber stamp going on saying that everything's okay. So we know we can't stop it. This bylaw amendment is not about stopping these 48 uses. It's about notifying abutters when things happen in your neighborhood. I got an abutter notification for a garage being built. That doesn't affect me.
There are certain things that require notifications and certain things that don't.
And currently the process with the Town of Easton, so when a permitter or an applicant looks to build a garage, the abutter notification is on the applicant. Currently on a by right use, there's no process for that by right use for a abutter notification. We are looking to establish that process.
Go ahead.
I'm Joyce Benvey, 201 Sheridan Street. I do not live in that neighborhood, but I walk it. And when you come around the corner and you see that the front yard is a parking lot, just so everybody knows, can you imagine your neighborhood coming around and seeing the entire front yard no longer grass and a complete parking lot? It's quite alarming and unsightly. They should have been notified so that maybe they could have planned it better so it wouldn't be so unsightly in your neighborhood. I don't think anyone here would want a whole parking lot in their neighborhood for a business. In a residential area, it's not commercial. They should have been notified. Sidewalks should have been put in. The kids should be safe so they can walk to their school bus locations, like she said, which I didn't know and I just learned. I absolutely would want to be notified, and that's the very least that you guys could have done.
Again, it's an allowed use, and we can't mandate that they put in any kind of sidewalks or infrastructure or anything like that.
Jacqueline Benvey, 93 Kennedy Circle. So I ask for support of the citizen petition because it is about transparency, communication, and neighbor awareness. As we've heard, residents typically hear about projects affecting their neighborhood before public hearings are held and approvals are made. In some cases, however, there is no requirement that abutters receive direct notice at all. For example, these protected uses that include educational, religious, and agricultural uses under the Dover Amendment. It's unreasonable to expect residents to monitor the monthly agenda of the Planning and Zoning Board to know what may be going on in their neighborhood. Notifying abutters gives residents an opportunity to voice concerns. In my neighborhood, we did not know about the plans to radically overhaul the home of my direct abutter from a residence to a commercial childcare center with a capacity of 36 children. We came home one day and the front yard had been paved into a parking lot with lines, arrows, enter and exit signs. The homeowner moved out of the home. It is now a full-fledged commercial business. It was an in-home daycare before. Nobody had a problem with that, but we just weren't notified that it was changing. This happened in the back of our quiet residential neighborhood with one outlet, no sidewalks, and no diligence done for traffic, noise, or public safety, including that of the neighborhood children, my own children, who walk to and from the bus stop. We found out about these plans after they'd been approved, and it was too late to voice our concerns. This proposed amendment will protect the integrity of Easton neighborhoods and their residents by keeping them informed. This proposal does not prohibit the use or remove any rights granted under state or federal law. This amendment does not help our neighborhood, but could provide constructive communication and transparency on future exempt use projects in other neighborhoods. and I respectfully ask to vote in favor of the article.
Hi, Emily Balin, 39 Union Street. I did have a question that was partially answered by her statement, but I just wanted some clarification on what entities are encompassed under the Dover Amendment and why that is different than a garage or a fence being put up.
Jay, do you want to answer that for us? Sure. I'm going to ask our attorney to, I can't speak like an attorney, but thank you.
So there's a few uses under the Dover Amendment. So first I want to back up to go forward. There's site plan review is something less than like a special permit, which might be for some garages, not all garages. So the notion that everyone gets noticed for someone doing a garage is not true. That it's only if it tips into what we call a special permit, which is a higher level of permitting. Site plan review is a little bit more esoteric. It's where the town's planning board will look at just general features but can't say no. And that encompasses a great number of uses. This particular initiative here in this article is just a small subset of the uses that are subject to site plan review. So this is just singling out those uses and not controlling or providing notice for many, many more uses that are subject to site plan review. For the Dover Amendment, there are things like educational uses, religious uses, agricultural uses, daycare uses, solar uses, accessory dwelling units, and a few others. Those are the main subject areas under the Dover Amendment. And those are included within the Dover Amendment or these exempt uses because historically towns have not accommodated those types of uses in their zoning because they're not always as popular as some of the other uses. So that's why they have special protections and are treated more as by right. And here, this additional procedure is intended to only apply to them rather than to all of the other uses that are subject to the same process.
Thank you. I really appreciate that explanation. I think it's important that we understand that there is a difference and there's a reason that these are by right and protected entities. I, for context, work in early childhood education as a mental health consultant, and this feels very discriminatory towards very important aspects of our community. I work every day with teachers who make not enough money to help children grow, not just academically, but socially and emotionally as well. So when we're talking about a child care center, we're not just talking about a place where children are dropped off to run around and play. We're talking about a place where children go to learn how to regulate their emotions, to learn how to be socially in a community, how to share, how to function. And so it's important that we understand what we're talking about. This isn't just a garage that's being put up. This is a place where young children grow and learn. They will eventually go into our public schools, and if they don't have this opportunity in a wonderful place like Easton, who wouldn't want their child to go and have a full day surrounded by trees and nice people walking their dogs that want to say hello? So I think it's important that we have this context, because this isn't just a playground where children are running around. It is a place of learning and growth, and these are future voters of this town. So I think it's important that we're taking into context that while this is for all of our neighbors, this is specifically targeting a child care center, and I want all of my community members to know that it is early childhood education, not just play, not just numbers, not just the alphabet. They are learning and they are growing. So I just wanted that to be stated.
Priscilla Almquist Olsen, 59 Seaver Street, Northeastern. I call the question.
Okay, so we need to vote on calling the question. It's a 2/3 vote, okay? So everything ceases right now, all right? If you are in favor of calling the question and moving this article to a vote, all those in favor? Oh, we need a second, sorry. Before you read, okay. All those in favor, please raise those orange cards. And all those opposed that want to keep debating, please raise those orange cards. Okay, so the question, 2/3 majority vote to call the question. Okay, now, so we move to a vote. All those in favor of Article 17 passing, this needs a simple majority vote. Raise your orange cards.
It's two-thirds vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's zoning. It's two-thirds. Yeah, it's on the.
Oh, it is. It's two-thirds vote. I'm sorry. Yep. Two-thirds vote because it's a zoning article. All those in favor, please raise your orange card. And all those opposed, please raise your orange card. Put your hands down for a second. I think so. All those in favor, again, raise your orange card. And all those opposed, raise your orange card. Okay, we're going to count. Put them down. All those in favor, stand up with your orange cards in your hands. You don't have to hold it over your head. We're going to come around and count. Just stand up. Just keep those orange cards in your hand, because if you're walking around, it's hard to count. So we're sending counters around. Yep.
Usually what I do is I usually then I can clearly see the next row, and I'll come down and
Under 48, Section 3. So all kinds of different concepts will be coming together.
did you count?
Pretty much anything commercial. Those won't. Yeah, look, I mean, I get it. This probably through the process if it wasn't just jurisdictions.
Ken.
Like every other parts, right? I'm like, my hips are gone after tonight. Can't all day. Yeah.
We count.
Danielle, you ready for the, okay.
Well, I think I'll be home around this time tomorrow.
What are you doing?
Ludlow, I haven't heard it, but it's so far away. Maybe I'll be home tomorrow.
They're in Southwick tomorrow.
You ready now? Okay, so now I need all of those opposed to Article 17. Please stand up with those orange cards in your hand, okay? This is the opposition, and they're going to come around and count you.
Issues with the fence. Is it off by 1 million?
You could make it. No, I've never had in all my years, I've never seen a moderator with a tiebreaker. I've often said,
This
no,
may be the night.
I've never even seen the need for it. And I've always said, like, if I have to break a tie, I'll break a tie. At my meeting, I've never had to break a tie. I mean, I've seen close ones, but not where the one vote. I've seen 3 or 4. I've seen a few.
I think that's good.
This or being a moderator? 15 as moderator.
We gotta do math now?
Yeah, gotta do math. Yes, they can send. They are not.
Okay, everybody's counted, we're just doing math up here.
Oh, good, thank you. I love that you can do that now.
122. That's
122, 46. That's 2/3.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so Article 17 passes by 2/3. Okay, Article 18. Dottie, I think this one's you. Nobody.
I move that the town take no action on Article 18.
Okay, so in order to approve that the town take no action on Article 18, we need a simple majority vote. All those in favor of taking no action on Article 18, please raise your orange cards. And all those opposed to taking no action, please raise your orange card. Okay, perfect. And Article 18, no action taken by a simple majority vote. Article 19. Dottie, same thing.
I move that the town take no action on Article 19.
Okay, so in order to vote on Article 19, for the town taking no action on Article 19, we need a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your orange card for taking no action. And all those opposed to taking no action, please raise your orange card. And Article 19, the town has voted to take no action by simple majority.
So thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second, okay, adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all.